When you talk about all-around circuits, there is none that can encapsulate more than this place. This has every single facet needed for amazing racing, no matter what you put on the table. And this table today proves to be one which will have everybody just sitting, hoping, waiting that their opportunity has come into full fruition. We're at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps. It is the Crest Autosport Spa 50, sponsored by TrakRacer. We are here with our TCR action here on the first day of May for amazing work that will be going on forward. This is the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, 7.004 kilometers of wonderful street turned real circuit, and one that has been known all throughout time and a little bit more as well. It's hosted pretty much everything under the sun, and well, I'm Jake Sparey. I've got Alex Everitt, Mr. Crest Autosport, alongside me, helping to bring you through the action here today around 50 very, very important laps of this place. But Alex, we have to talk about this place as one of the staple circuits that you go to in the world and say, I recognize this place, I love this place. It's a place where if you want to be known, how good is your record here? Because this has been the place which has spearheaded many a driver into racing stardom.
Absolutely, and many series across the world. It really is the pinnacle of motorsport. Arguably many other tracks are as well, the Monzas, the Indianapolis, Monaco, but Spa is up there as one of the most legendary venues of all time. And of course it hosts very recently the TCR Spa 500 event, which this event is inspired by, which has become one of the pinnacles of touring car racing.
Certainly has become a real pinnacle, and we've seen how this is the second year of event that we have got around this place. It's going to be one worth keeping in mind as we work out how we go through, and of course there are key places to figure out where things need to be done. That last horse hairpin that connects down at Francorchamps the very same way that it does, for example, in cycling with Liège, Bastogne-Liège, late on in the ride that you have for that championship. But then you got that rise up Eau Rouge and Raidillon, which is probably the most fearsome piece of track which is still out there today. You've got Les Combes and Malmedy, that very good overtaking opportunity, a switchback section where you can attack all the way down to Bruxelles, that long descending right-hand corner, which time and again has been the deciding factor in putting a move together. A middle sector which is all about Flo Pujon, the double apex left, the Fagnes chicane, you've got the campus corner, Stavelot, both of which 90 degrees, where if weather isn't quite as nice, you find yourself that run. And then of course Blanchimont, another very, very important corner, left-hand bend, which is all about commitment into that final bus stop, or quote-unquote chicane that used to be a bus stop, will always be a bus stop in my mind. But you know, Alex, you've got a track which has many different overtaking opportunities, corners which challenge every single aspect of a car, and also you've got an element here in the Ardennes Forest of elevation change, which a lot of brand new tracks seem to have a little bit of a struggle trying to bring into that realm of possibility of track building. Absolutely. I mean, every corner on this track is legendary in its own right. I mean, you could make your dream circuit out of probably every corner on this track, but especially that we're racing touring cars today, we're going to see plenty of side-by-side action, plenty of moves in probably any of these corners. It's going to be very exciting, and while we're on the subject, we'll talk a little bit about the cars we're going to see today. There are 10 manufacturers available to the drivers in this event today. We have got the Audi RS3 LMS, made famous by Tom Coronel and others, the Alfa-Romeo Giulietto, one of the most beautiful cars in the field, the Italian team of Team Mulsanne, making that car famous, the Honda Civic TCR, made famous by Tiago Montero, an ex-Formula 1 driver, the Lynk & Co., a team full of legendary drivers with Ted Bjork, Ivan Muller, Andy Priaulx, and the most recent WTCR champion, Jan Earlacher, making the Lynk & Co. very famous. The Renault Megane, a very new car to the TCR roster, made famous by O'Keefe. The Volkswagen Golf, which isn't in the WTCR series nowadays, but Rob Huff, a very, very popular
British touring car driver, making that car famous. We've also got the Hyundai i30, which in the early days of WTCR was the car to beat, with Gabriele Tarquini taking the maiden WTCR Championship in 2018, and then the year after by Norbert Michelitz finally getting his World Touring Car glory, the Peugeot 308. And the Cupra, TCR, and of course Lada Vesta, all 10 manufacturers we'll see today. And without further ado, let's get into the server to check out all the drivers out on circuit right now.
Absolutely, and this is where you find drivers just in the back ends now of their practice, looking to try and make sure that their times all work out, and they're getting the last elements of what they need to be focused on. Alexander Foyle, at least for this moment in time, making that very nice run through towards the Blanchimont corner. Now, this is one of those places where if you put that focus down on the board, we actually have just switched at this time over to qualifying, 25 minutes to make sure you get exactly what you want out of that. This is the time where you just need to put your head down. You've got a lot of time out there on the board to put the best lap forward. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people here, Alex, will be just wanting to keep their eyes peeled, focused, get a good lap in to start, and then just chip away like an artisan, making sure that they get more tenths and hundredths out of it.
Absolutely, I think you're 100% correct there, Jake. I think a couple of drivers will be trying to establish their position on track. As you can see, a lot of drivers already scrambling for a position on track to get not too close to the driver in front, but they want to be close enough behind so they can get a tow down this Kemmel Straight and other parts of the circuit. The TCR cars are very dependent on drafting, and you can gain such an amount of pace from being behind another car. As we can see, Ben Walker following the next-gen drivers of Lee Horn and Fraser Rostance in front of him, but track positioning qualifying here is essential, although we'll see plenty of drivers just trying to get a lap in just to make sure they have one on the board so they can establish their pace amongst the field. And then as the session goes by, quite a long session in 25 minutes, but we'll probably see some drivers really hit their marks later in the session.
And it's that later in the session we're focused on. There is Ben Walker, hoping for a little bit of a good time there in that Lynk & Co, looking to make the charge down the hill through Jackie Ick's corner before the run over towards Pouron as they funnel through the trees. And this is all about searching and feeling out how much grip do you have. Do you feel confident putting yourself out there at the very front? It's a bit of side-by-side out there in qualifying. Maybe isn't quite exactly what they're thinking of, but I'm sure those two, they're just behind Ben Walker, be very happy with a bit of tow from the Lynk going through, and that's a little bit of a slide going through that left-hander. Very difficult to control that. Rostance there in the Audi, 6th position currently, but of course no times have been set as of yet, and these are going to be long and difficult laps here, Alex. So the issue that they're going to have is that one small mistake on a long lap like this can be compounded with other small mistakes, which means that to get the perfect lap, you're going to be having to really focus on how you put together and glue together all of these laps.
Absolutely right. So many corners on this track, but so many of them are so quick, and there's fine margins with track limits and that sort of thing. You'll also find with these TCR cars that some of them, particularly the smaller wheelbase cars, will suit the second sector very much more than the longer wheelbase cars such as the Lynk & Co, where it comes into its own on sectors 1 and 3. So we'll see plenty of that going on today. The Lynk & Co and the Audi, probably the ones with the longer wheelbase, will suit sectors 1 and 3 very much. But you've got the Alfa Romeo, such as Konstantin Romanenko here going through Eau Rouge right now, where sector 2 for this car and the Hyundai potentially, and maybe even the Renault, will come into its own in sector 2 as well.
And Romanenko in the 55 is going to look for a pretty good solid drive up the field here and make sure that this all works out quite nicely. On the brakes then into Lecombe. Look how heavy over the curbs he's going there. Almost all four wheels over both sectors, trying to maximise as much as he can. Again, pushes a little wide off the exit. He's got to be alert to that he doesn't do it too much. He flicks down the gears to third gear and looks to put the power down. 83 Ks we had chalked down as they go through, and look to try and work out how much that they can push at this moment in time. And this is the key that you're looking at for Romanenko, just trying to maximise all of the circuit he can and just try and carry as much corner speed through in this sort of field. This is one of the tracks where if you can carry corner speed, it does help, but sometimes you do need to be a little bit slower in the KPH to get that turn in for track positioning into the next corner. Something that is very much a priority around this place is where the car is placed.
Absolutely, and particularly through the Lefania chicane and campus here, track position, as you said, Jake, absolutely essential so you can get a good pull around the corner and a good exit. Particularly for this section here, as we go around Stavelot now, you need all the top end speed you can for this long section of track, which descends into Sector 3 now, as we watch Romanenko go through Blanchimont. And a little bit of a background behind Romanenko, he was actually on camera operation as he slipped sideways around Blanchimont there. Might have just about got away with that as he actually aborts his time now, but Romanenko warming up his tyres just a little bit more, not enough heat into those Goodyear tyres, or the Yokohama tyres on the Alfa Romeo there, as he restarts another lap. But Romanenko of the Bullers Racing Team actually was behind the cameras for last year's event of Spa 50, so a huge thank you to him that he's helped us out with that last year and competing in this year. But Romanenko, renowned esports WTCR driver, he's certainly be a driver to look out for today, as he qualifies in the top split very, very often. He was actually one of the race winners in the United Kingdom versus Team Ukraine RaceRoom race, which was hosted a few months ago, hosted at Slovakia Ring. He was actually the winner of race 1 back then, so certainly a force to be reckoned with is Romanenko. But drivers starting to put their times on the board now, Jake. In particular, Ben Walker in the Lynk & Co, top of the standings at the moment.
Yeah, very comfortable time there from Walker to put that one up at the very, very top end. So definitely working out that 28.5, definitely worth keeping in mind as he looks to try and set the early pace out there in qualifying. But of course, qualifying isn't the guarantee around this place. It gives you the lead, yes, but it only gives you the best possible chance to win out there from the front of the grid. What we did see last year was that a lot of drivers could make progress through the mid to late parts of their stint and really get themselves nicely sorted out for the pit stop strategies that came into play over the course of the racing action. So what is really, really key about the way that they all need to focus and make sure they've got things going is that qualifying right now, yes, while it might be good and you might get your quote-unquote brownie points here, Alex, it's just a case of if you've got a good qualifying set, you've got to make sure it translates to a race set.
Absolutely, and that's my Achilles heel in racing, sadly. Very good qualifying, but not so good in the races sometimes. But it's actually curious that you mentioned that qualifying is not everything, and I think that cues very well to this man who's not actually out on the track at the moment, but William Foyle was one of the stars of last year's race, as just during qualifying, that's probably what he's a little bit nervous about right now, but during qualifying he had a technical difficulty in the form of a disconnection, and joining the server just in time for the race. He had to start from 36th on the grid. He came all the way through the pack throughout the race, approximately 2 hours long and 50 laps, to get himself a very, very well-deserved third place last year. So William Foyle certainly one of the drivers to look out for today. And quickest in practice as well, I believe. So certainly, well, he'll definitely want this. Well, everyone wants this win, Jake. Everyone does. But William Foyle, the memories and perhaps regrets of last year will haunt him a little bit and stir him on, I suppose, to try and get the win here today.
Yeah, and I'm sure that a lot of drivers want things to work their way. Jürgen Madsby Pedersen over the line, jumps up then to position number 12. A nice improvement there with that 2-minute 31 lap time. Tamas Jaeger having a little bit of a good run as Romanenko has jumped up then into second place. Then overall Garunian has jumped into 5th, so the times are now up into 4th position there. It looks like with that little bit of a change of time, he moves up forward a little bit more, but still nobody able to, I would say, get themselves around Mr. Walker at this moment in time. But there is still a lot more on the horizon where you can go and get that working. Of course, we're saying it's 25 minutes, and just like if you've got a little bit of time when it comes to qualifying, you've got a little bit of time to head over to TrakRacer.com, because if you use that fantastic code known as Crest. You can get yourself 5% off, Alex, off of any product there over at one brilliant TrakRacer website.
Absolutely. Yes, as Jake said, use the code CREST to get 5% off, and you can find the link to TrakRacer products via the descriptions in all of our live streams here, available on Facebook, YouTube or Twitch. Any of them, welcome aboard to the stream.
Yes, absolutely. So where we find ourselves at this moment in time is going to be very alert over the course of this one. It is Walker, of course, then Romanenko in second, Horn is third, and Garunian fourth. So looks like it's going to be a very close battle. There is Adam Clark, fifth position in the Lynk, looking to try and really work hard to find that time to bring himself back into play. And of course, the Lynks have looked really, really strong then over the course of these qualifyings right now. No surprises here. Through the right and the left, a little bit of trail braking through the corner. Now you can see those lines there going through the off-camber final chicane as he makes a charge for it. And you do see a little bit of time coming over time and time again. That third position there for Adam Clark, that is just a testament to how much he is trying to find himself right now, as Scott McLean right now looks to try and pilot that Volkswagen around the final two corners.
Yes, and coming out the final corner, Scott McLean in the DTM 92 season just gone, one of the biggest improvers of the season, but in the TCRs here he'll go from 18th up to 17th, a bit of an improvement from McLean there in the Huff livery Volkswagen Golf, and he'll go again to try another lap. Let's revert over to Kohanen, new driver to Crest Autosport leagues and races. So not much background on Kernahan here, but we'll see how he gets on in the green Cupra there. Green sectors so far as he enters the final chicane, the bus stop as me and Jake will refer to it today, and off the final corner, and we'll cross the line behind the yellow Audi of Mark Arrowsmith there. Crosses the line at a 2:32.1, and that will put David up no position, stays in 20th at the moment.
Yep, so P20 right now, I think he has just been shuffled down to 21st, as there is Giardis then, the Greek driver, looking to try and push over towards the line. And it's not necessarily a case of bad qualifyings get you nowhere. You always have those opportunities to go out there and search and hope that the times all nicely put themselves out there, but remains in that 23rd position, at least for the time being at this moment. So work to be done. Ian Deeney there in the Alfa Romeo is in 12th position. It's worth noting that we've got effectively livery-wise 3 elements of Alfa Romeo, 18, 19 and 20.
Yes, and actually probably the only manufacturer that does stretch across all 3 years of RaceRoom's TCR availability. Ian Deeney in the 2020 Alfa Romeo, that would have been obscuring track limits there coming through Pouhon there. As we see Ian Deeney back off and revert back to the pits, he'll try again for another time. His teammate, however, Heike Navaluf, is about to complete a lap here, and it's so far so good with green sectors. Oh, coming a lot of that bus stop chicane there. A lot of the sausage curve, which really would have upset his line, upset his speed, and probably upset his lap. 9th at the moment. Let's see if Navaluf will get any higher. Potentially. We'll just see if he jumps up a little bit. I don't think he did. It's still 1.5 seconds exactly off top of the pops at the moment. Ben Walker.
Yep, and Ben Walker's been doing just a very quiet and comfortable job over this moment in time. There's not much that you can really say that has been difficult or tough by this terms of qualifying. He's been just quietly working about his times, a couple tenths of a second advantage. Lee Horn there in the next-gen car, and this is the key here between these two next-gen drivers right now, Horn and Rostons. They're going to be working in tandem. One person will get the draft one lap, the other person will get the draft the next lap.
Absolutely, and we're just looking at Rostons, who actually is on an invalid lap time, so it'll have to be another lap. But Lee Horn, without draft, is still doing very well. A purple first sector, and we did say at the start that the Audi is very well suited to sectors 1 and 3, like the Lynk & Co, which Ben Walker is riding at the moment. So Lee Horn could be in for a big increase in positions if he can hook up the rest of this lap. Let's stay with Lee Horn just to see how he gets on.
Yeah, and well, Lee Horn is really trying to open everything up at this moment in time, and he wants to try and make sure that everything nicely puts itself into position here. We are down to the final 10 minutes now and a bit of spare change here, and both of them are going to just take the decision to reset the car back down into the pits and hope that it all nicely works out. Now, here is Gnevelov, who is trying to really push forward there in the Alfa Romeo. He is there in 10th position right now with just a little bit more work to do on a 2-minute 30 lap time at the moment, looking to push on a little bit more.
Absolutely, and actually we've got to cut to Ben Walker as in the middle sector, a purple outright sector 2, so potentially, although he's got quarter of a second buffer to Romanenko in second, this could be an even bigger improvement for Ben Walker now, as he's the only one in the 2-minute 28 lap time. So coming through the bus stop now, this is crucial, and this could be a big moment in qualifying, Jake, where Ben Walker might, just might, commentator's curse, hopefully not going to ruin that, might actually extend his lead in qualifying.
It's a great sector 3 as well,
yeah.
So it looks like he's done pretty nicely over the course of that sort of lap, so nicely all worked out and together, but still there's a long way to go, a very long way to go at this moment in time as you all try and figure out where you exactly need to be over the course of the action that is there. So looks like, at least for the time being, that these drivers are just hoping for more as Shaponchik moves up into 8th position with that time. So the foils right now 9th and 10th. That's probably not where they're expecting to be here with their qualifying efforts so far.
No, and quite a surprise from William Falls so far. He's got a little bit of a draft from an Alfa Romeo in front of him, which might help him along, but 1.4 seconds off the pace at the moment for Foyle. I mean, his practice lap was very good with a 29.2. He's only in the 2-minute 30s at the moment. Well, there's plenty more to come from William Fall, I do feel. But 10th at the moment, he won't be particularly pleased with that. But a purple first sector, however, he has traffic to negotiate here in the form of the 22 Cupra of not Chris Bell, Alex Ward. And up the inside goes William Fall, trying to let Ward know that he's on a fast lap, but Ward had nothing to know about that. And that might have compromised both of their laps there, Foyle being, well, I would say a little bit impatient, but he did have his reasons to be getting a wriggle on.
Yeah, and that is the wriggle on that we are keeping an eye out on at this moment here. So it looks like we are in a really, really fun position right now in terms of qualifying efforts here. William Foyle looking like he needs a little bit of help at this moment in time to push himself up through the order. He does have a fastest first sector over the course of his lap time. He went purple by his, I would say, respects at this moment, but the second sector is going to be key. And we focus once more on Walker because once more, fastest middle sector here, Alex.
Yes, and we'll go back to William Fall very shortly to see how he's getting on. But another second sector, purple sector for Ben Walker. Let's see how he gets on in this third sector, see if he can get himself lower than a 228.9. Sticks it nice and tight to the pit wall, and it looks like a 28.8. Actually, it says 6 on the bottom, but it's not. It's 28.8 as per the timing tower on the left of your screens there. That did improve his time, and it's stretched his lead in qualifying to over 0.3 of a second. This is going to take some beating, Jake.
It certainly is going to take a little bit of beating. So now you've got a lot of work which is coming into play, and William Foyle jumps himself up into 8th position, but you have seen a couple more improvements. For example, Zira Garunian has moved up into 3rd place as Mark Arrowsmith there, 24th position. Charged the line for Garunian now, hoping that this one is going to be a shade of improvement at this moment in time. But the Alfa Romeos here, 2nd and 3rd. It looks like it's going to be Lynk versus Alfa from now to the end. That is a very entertaining line from Garunian. Looks like he's gearing up for that lap, moving all the way to the right-hand side to make sure that he is minimizing as much track length as he possibly can over the course of this one.
Absolutely, and with that Alfa Romeo, it's got such a loose rear end, you can turn it in nice and late for last source to get a good, straight, speedy exit from last source for the run up to Eau Rouge and through. He goes, you can cut plenty of that curve over Eau Rouge. And Zaraja Gurunian, one of the most acclaimed drivers in the field here today, hosting the Ukraine versus Great Britain race some months ago that we mentioned, and a very, very quick drive in his own right, battling for the championship in the current next-gen WTCR series hosted on Mondays. But a green first sector for Zaraja, but not purple. But as we said, the Alfa Romeo comes into its own on sector 2, being a short wheelbase car, the smallest car in the field, in fact. But we're going to just revert away from Gurunian at the moment, as look at this from Ben Walker, purple first and second sector, Jake.
Yeah, and it is absolutely flying at this moment in time. We have seen it time and again, just how often he gets himself up into a really, really strong position. It's a 28.8 his best at this moment in time, and he is just looking for more and more out there on track to hope that this time works out for him. So has he got exactly what he wants? No, he doesn't. He's put it in the wall because he is frustrated with that. Best first sector, best second sector, one final piddly little chicane by his standards, and he hasn't been able to put that together. That is just pure frustration.
It is, and I believe that was Ben Walker's last chance, because RaceRoom, unlike most sims, once the timer has expired to 0 minutes 0 seconds, that's it. Your qualifying session is over. There is no run over time, nothing like that. So with a lap length of 2.5 minutes, you've got to say at this point, drivers will be on their last ventures to try and get further up the grid. Ben Walker, that'll be it for him. But really, it's looking highly unlikely, particularly from this current status of Gurunian's lap, who is in third at the moment. This might not actually get him any, much closer to Ben Walker. He might struggle to get himself into second here. Let's see what happens when he crosses the line. A green third sector, but no shift in the timing tower, so that means Gurunian will stay third at the moment, but he does have another crack at the whip here, as he will start a brand new lap, whereas his teammate, Konstantin Romanenko, on a very good second sector, not threatening Ben Walker at the moment, but might actually improve his time, Jake.
Yeah, might do indeed at this stage, but Romanenko, I think, is just pulling it back at this moment, just nicely gearing up for this one final lap. So at this stage, it is a 3.5 tenth of a second gap for Ben Walker, which I don't see why he'd be frustrated. Horner and Rostons down there in the pit, so looks like they're probably not going to get one more lap down in on the book. So work to be done by a whole host of drivers at the moment. Adam Clark is also out there on circuit as we focus on Gurunian then in third place. And my goodness, are we really in for a challenge at this moment? Gurunian slightly down in the opening sector, but it is a green opening sector by his standards as he goes through. Clark, of course, is out there racing at this moment in time, and he is purple for that opening sector.
And he's got a fellow Lynk in front of him, which, if that Sector 1 is anything to go by, the Lynk ahead of him of Alex Everitt might actually be holding him up a little bit if he gets much closer. We'll see how Adam gets for the rest of the split, but Adam Clark is Ben Walker's teammate, so how happy will the VLX Esports team be if Adam Clark can get this on the front row, provided he hooks up the rest of the lap here. Alex Everitt, though, not in his team, same manufacturer but a different team. Might he be trying to compromise the lap here of Adam Clark? We hope not, but we'll see how Adam gets on as Alex takes a much more shallow line through the Fania there. Adam Clark really hooking up these lines very, very well as he approaches the end of Sector 2 now.
He certainly does. We'll see what the time is as he crosses over and really pushes. It's a long wait for that second sector. It is his best middle sector, but he is down nearly 3/10 of a second, which goes to prove how good Walker has everything set up for the middle sector. He's down in the pits now, so he will not improve over the course of his time. You still got Gurunian, you still got Romanenko out there as they all search for times and they all make that charge to the line. But of course, someone like Foyle won't want to give this one up in terms of his lap because he's still trying to improve as well. A lot of air going through that final chicane for Adam Clark, and hopefully that will see more improvement on a 29.3 as he will make that late charge to the line. and there goes that said charge, and ultimately the lap falls away with that little clip over the curb. So no improvements for Adam Clark there inside the final minutes. Garunyan's lap time is over and done with as well. But here comes Romanenko searching as we see Dzerzhinsky move up to 19th position overall. It was a perfect middle sector for Romanenko. He got that gap down to just 1/10 of a second as he charges for the line. Has he found more? No. He remains only 2.5 of a second back. He did improve, but crucially not on position out there overall. So a vital point of contention over the course of this qualifying effort. But what more can you say? It's been Walker up at the top doing exactly what's needed. Pole position by 1/4 of a second over Romanenko. Garunyan then in third with Clark, Horn and Rossens 4th, 5th and 6th there with Tamas Jaeger 7th, William Foyle 8th, Alexander Foyle there in 9th, and Nikita Shaponchik there is in 10th position overall. A very, very big qualifying by standards here, Alex, and some good names in the middle, the likes of Tonga Guardia, for example, the Argentine in P15. Not a bad qualifying by his standards, and I'm pretty sure everybody up and down the order be looking for good runs, including the likes of the Filipino driver, Mark Voltaire Elman, or MVE at this stage, and Ben Sisko down there 4.2 seconds off the pace in P24.
Absolutely, and we'll just get those qualifying results just back up on your screen now. That is sadly what RaceRoom does to us. It does not leave the results on screen for very long. So there we go. We have got the top 20 there. Do you want to run through it, Jake?
I would if I could see it, which is the first bit. But the key here is that Ben Walker did put himself with the best possible time out there on the board. Romanenko then in second position, and Girard Garunyan in third. It's going to be another very firm case here today in terms of those qualifying laps that we have all seen at this moment in time about how you focus on your race. It looks like it's going to be another case of UK and Ireland versus the Ukraine at this moment in time, with the nearest none of either of them being in P7 in the form of Tamas Jaeger. So work to be done by a lot of these drivers, but 50 laps, long time to figure things out.
Absolutely, and a great range of nationalities in the field, as you touched upon there. Plenty of Ukrainian, British drivers. We've also got drivers from outside of Europe as well, in the form of the Filipino of Mark Voltaire Elman, and from Argentina, Tonga Guardia. We also have Ben Sisko of Jamaican heritage, as well as you mentioned. Anastasios Georgiadis from Greece as well. Danish driver of Pedersen, and the Hungarian of Tamas Jaeger. So plenty of nationalities represented in this 27 car grid today. But as we run down into the race very, very shortly, Jake, we got 50 laps starting near 2 o'clock.
We certainly do, and these drivers just getting their last little bits of practices in, a couple minutes of warm up before they take themselves onto the starting grid. And this is a very long lap around this place. I'm sure that everyone is going to be very much firm and focused on what they can do here today, what they can find out there on circuit. And I think the real key out there in this sort of track is just keep lap one clean. Everything else should just go and follow after that. So all the drivers now will be asked and tasked to get themselves out there onto the track, and they will have to be very, very much on it right now to make sure that they are there and they are ready at this moment in time. So everyone then will take their gridding up process. You can see nice sunny conditions here today, Alex, and I'm sure they're going to be all hoping that they are ready for great racing action.
Yes, and the minds will shift towards keeping the car clean, keeping every corner on lap one clean, and of course getting the pit stops absolutely perfect when they do come along later. We might see a lot of one stop and two stop strategies today. Be interesting to see the difference, but we're on the start.
We certainly are, and we're going to be getting ourselves ready here around this place. Walker is on the front. You've got Romanenko and Garunyan, who will be both wanting to push. Lights are on, and they are out, and we are racing 50 laps here of this wonderful, wonderful Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Gets itself going. Walker with a nice clean start will take the whole shot going in towards turn number one. No such dramas then as they all look to final on through. It looks like the mid-pack are all okay as they make their charge as well. So a nice clean start then. Walker making a charge, already a battle going on then for 4th position as they look to try and challenge Lee Horn, looking like he is wanting to move up here, get his position done on Adam Clark, and at least for the time being, they are going to stay as they are for the moment. A nice, good run, but it's that run and that serpentine that we are starting to see here. A bit of too wide there in the middle for about 8th place, along with Jaeger and Foyle and Shaponchik.
Yes, Jaeger on the inside of William Foyle, who's jumped up a few places here, but Jaeger has to back out of it. This is actually a good start from William Foyle, who did start, I just remind myself, 8th place, so he has moved up 1 place past Jaeger. But coming down through Bruxelles now, not very much changed at the top, as drivers are trying to keep their noses very clean at this point in the race.
Yep, they certainly are, and I have to say as well, it's been a nice clean start for all 27 drivers in this field. No dramas to speak of then to open out the start of this race as the battle continues on there between Clark and Rostens there just behind us. He wants to get himself into the mix, as does Jirai Garunian, who's lost a place off the start here to Lee Horn, who's had a good run. Top 2 starts to break away. There's a little thing to the inside in towards Fania then from Adam Clark in the Xi'an Racing Lynk & Co machine. But it's going to be about focus here at this moment in time. You've got to make sure that you are in the right position to strike, but you can't win this race on lap 1 of 50. But as we've seen so many times before, it is very easy to lose a race like this before lap 1 of 50.
Absolutely, and we saw Zirai Garunian already trying to maximise his track position. We saw going wide at the Jackie X corner, getting a slowdown penalty, which did surrender 3rd place to Lee Horn, and they've actually dropped back a little bit from these front two, who are just gone at the moment. 2 seconds clear of 3rd place already, these two, and sticking together nice and closely here. Romanenko and Walker.
Spinner in the background. 3 spinners all going around. It looks like a lot of drivers there. Shaponchik is involved in that one, and it does continue as they go on through. Alex Ward has been caught up there. Looks like Madsby Pedersen is out of this race at this stage, and that is a big disaster as they've gone on through. It just looked like that traditional Blanchimont incident. One driver gets it wrong, and then you've got just no element of room through that section of track there, Alex, to really make sure you can gather it all back on. A really, really awkward one to finish off, and I'm sure a handful of drivers have dived down into the pits with how late it was in the lap.
Absolutely. Shaposhnik and Adi being 2 of them already in the pits, repairing damage. This is not a good start to their race, but we're not entirely sure what happened in the mid-pack. Someone getting on the grass and perhaps getting a little bit too loose, but we have to switch back over to here, as is a battle for 3rd place, Jake.
Yep, Jirai Garunian having to make the move actually on the outside. He gets it done. Horn's got to be very alert to where Adam Clark is and can't quite get it done. And there is William Foyle now up into 6th position. He is past Fraser Rostens. He is on a tear in these opening couple of laps of this race, but that was always going to be the fear, that someone makes a mistake in the middle of a very bunched pack and then you get yourself a few drivers in a bit of trouble out there in the form of this race. So drivers are able to keep themselves for the most part going, but I'm sure a few are going to be getting a little bit of help as they push on through. But Garunian now having to play defensive at this moment. Well, he's got the move that he wants out through, I should say, first and foremost, and now his focus is building a gap to Lee Horn, who is very much bottlenecking at this stage. You can see already about a couple car lengths being pulled out in front by the Ukrainian.
Yes, and Garunian, once he's got clear ahead of him, he's very, very quick indeed. Usually at the top of the leaderboards is Garunian, so at this point in the race where he's got no one to worry about around him and he can just focus on getting his lines absolutely right. And we've seen shades of that in this opening 60% of the lap or so, where he's been past Lee Horn, where he can actually get his head down and charge towards Romanenko ahead of him.
Yeah, and that looks like it's going to be very, very key as they continue their challenges at this moment in time. Clark looking very good as we focus on Mark Arrowsmith there a little bit further back down in the pack at least. It's worth noting that Foyle now trying to make it happen around the outside, inside for the next part of the corner as these two Lynks fight it out together. William Foyle up to P5. I'm pretty sure P3 is going to be on the horizon. Top 2 aren't a million miles away either. It's only 2.6 seconds out in front to them. So really good work being concocted, at least at this moment in time, with some good battling that is out there at the moment. There has been a mistake down further in the pack, though, and it's Anastasios Girouardis as we're side by side on the run through, skips the final chicane, has to take the slow down penalty, but run up through, and there you can see William Foyle holds it at least for the moment, but he can't afford to lose too much time right now. He's already 1.1 back here of Lee Horn because he's defending.
Yes, and we go on board with Adam Clark now to see how much that slipstream affects that Lynk down this Camel Straight here. He moves to the inside with plenty of room to get more alongside with the braking, long distance braking into the chicane here. Still alongside, and William Foyle shuts the door going into the corner there on Adam Clark. It stays 5th and 6th at the moment for them two drivers, but William Foyle, he was the man on a mission last year as he went from 36th on the grid to 3rd place. He is the outgoing DTM champion for the Crest Autosport RaceRoom League, so plenty of fame on this driver in this event right now. His luck hasn't been on his side when it comes to the next gen WTCR series, but here today, a bit of a chip on his shoulder, maybe trying to get a good result out of today.
I have to note you now of 2 retirements from this race. Mark Arrowsmith and Nikita Shaposhnik, I think, may have just come together. I flicked over to Arrowsmith and heard a massive crunch as he hit the wall. So I think both of them are very much out of things at this moment in time. But look at how these 3 battles are going, or 2 battles which has a group of 2 and a group of 3. Lee Horn has really rallied back to Jiraiya Garunian, who's dropped to nearly another second here to Romanenko just in front of him. And then you got Foyle, Clark and Rostand trying to work out where they need to be at this stage. Now, I think there will be a little bit of a case of being patient here, because you can fuel save around this circuit rather effectively.
Absolutely, yeah. You can run in higher gears around this circuit to save fuel. You can run behind drives to change up a gear, a little bit like the IndyCar technique. Actually works in these cars very well. But William Foyle here, we got to skip to Lee Horn. He took a look to the inside of Garunian, but Garunian runs wide at the bus stop. Lee Horn gets the undercut and passed, and into 3rd place he goes.
Yeah, very comfortable overtake there, and it's worth keeping an eye on those front 2 because Ben Walker is just being shadowed by Konstantin Romanenko. This has been a very quiet race, and another little look to the inside tries Adam Clark, who is effectively hoping for everything he possibly can. He's got a nice little run here, trying to pick it up, and it's a case of both fall into line. Look at this. This is what TCR racing's all about. They tuck up right underneath, looking for as much of a run through Eau Rouge and Radion as they can possibly get, open it up onto the Camel Straight, uphill all the way in terms of the drag up, looking for opportunities. And the question of can you go and get there, that is the real question in the eyes as they hit the brakes and go into that next right. No change to the race lead, but Garunian here, side by side. Here's some Noah's Ark sim racing for you here, Alex. 2 wide, 2 deep, and it looks like a bit of contact there between the 2 links.
Oh yeah, William Foyle turning across on Adam Clark going into the corner there. Not to be subjective or anything, but it was a little cheeky from William Foyle there. Adam Clark will be getting a little bit frustrated. No light flashing just yet at this point in the race, but Adam Clark feels like he can get in front of William Foyle and perhaps pounce on the battle for 3rd place ahead of him. But yeah, the battle rages on between the 2 Lynk co-drivers.
There's a great battle going on as well. 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th as well in this race. This is Victor Gorick in front of MVE, Mark Voltaire-Elman. Then you got Tonga Guardia and Ola Janssen all in this one, an international affair as they fight it out in the early goings. Now, these sorts of drivers I would put down at this point in time here, Alex, as it gets really close throughout the top 5 positions, as ones to just keep an eye out on the longer that this race goes on.
Absolutely, yeah. You might find some of these drivers down here are trying to take it easy with fuel, trying to get as many laps as they can out of 1 tank of fuel, which they will need to refuel about 33 laps into the race here, approximately. But you might see some of these drivers in the lower end try that. But Tonga Guardia, I actually remember from last season, he was the only driver in the field who actually took a one-stop strategy last season, as there was more tyre degradation on the cars last year, but Tonga Guardia finished a very happy 13th last year. Might he be trying the same sort of tactics this year?
I would say so at this moment in time. So there'll be a lot of strong focus on trying to work out where you need to be, what strategy is there on the books, as it looks like another very, very good run at this moment in time, trying to get into a position to attack, but not quite there on the outside. And we've got even more great battles out there at the moment we need to be talking about. You've got Ian Deeney there in 9th position, Hauschka Nevelov then, who will be looking to try and break away. That one's just over a second now that they find. So some wonderful work being done up and down the order to make sure that they are all nicely placing themselves into a position where they can be a challenge if something does go wrong with this third place group on back.
Absolutely, and Andy Withers, one of them, who was involved in the big accident that happened going towards the chicane earlier on in the race at the end of lap 2 it might have been. But Andy Withers recovering now up to 19th at the moment, hunting down Alex Ward at the moment. But we will take a look to Lee Horn as well, because every time it lets me know that there's a battle going on up front. We do want to check in, as these drivers, I've seen them racing together for many years now, and it is, well, exciting to watch between drivers like Horn, Garunian and Foyle.
Yeah, and this is all about patience in terms of this sort of battle, because you can't win this battle outright. There's no way that any of these drivers have proven that they can break away. But the key here is Alfa Romeo versus Audi. The Audi is very short in terms of a wheelbase, very much a mechanical style of driving you need for that Audi. So work to be done at least at this moment in time. And the focus is going to be now how you pick up each move one at a time. Horn able to shadow very closely through the middle sector, but it's just the case of he cannot put that Audi where he needs to be through the final stages. Remember, we're only through onto the 5th lap of this race, so it shows with 46 laps to go, it'll be 45 to go when they cross the line, just how difficult some of these scraps have been and will be at this stage as they go on through. McLean looking close here to Ben Cisco, up already to P15.
Yeah, I believe Cisco might have just overtaken McLean. Sorry for missing that. But yeah, these two battling for the top 16 slot at the moment.
It goes on down the inside, and that is going to be comfortable going through. And suddenly you got Foyle there just behind. But again, watch that drive out of the final corner by Jiraiya Garunian. He moves over hard to the right-hand side. He's committed very early to his line. If he was maybe more patient, he could have gone to the inside. It's on camber here in towards La Source. They try and go through, and there's a bit of bumper to bumper as they try and figure it out there. And as Foyle gets himself side by side, now they've got to work out where they want to be as they go up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. I think they're going to be too wide as they go through. How's the bravery? Check the poles as they all go through. Foyle gets it. Garunian decides, I'm yielding.
Oh, it was nearly Perez versus Ocon there, but it ends up being Gasly versus Perez. Good move from William Foyle to get past Garunian before Eau Rouge there, but now he'll try the outside coming up to the chicane, Jake.
Yeah, freight training central right now. This is going to get dicey between these four. They're all got to be okay. Foyle is now up into third. Garunian around the outside looking for 4th place, but there's a bit of contact again. Foyle is Horn there on the inside, and he's got no drive through Malmedy. The back end steps out as he goes through, and suddenly it's going to be a chance now for Clark. Try around the outside of Bruchel's lock up there by Garunian through the corner, and ultimately that opens the door back up for Horn again. Attack to defence to attack, all in the space of half a lap.
Oh, excellent racing, excellent touring car racing between all these. For a minute I thought Lee Horn was going to drop all 3 positions there, but William Foyle getting himself from 5th to 3rd in a matter of a few corners. Brilliant drive from William, who gets himself into the podium spots at the moment. They're a long way behind these two though. Ben Walker and Romanenko still less than a second apart, but they're just leaving everyone for dead at the moment. But what a battle this has been between all these drivers, and it's not going to end just yet.
Tonga Guardia is in deep trouble and I think is out of this race. So there you can see he'll put himself back into the pits. He's had a big moment. I did have a little look on the screen there. So Guardia, who we were thinking could be a threat late on in the race, has decided that his threat is over very early on. Now Clark's got a really good run here just behind this. Look at that. All right, on the back of Lee Horn as he searches there through Curve of Paul Frere over towards Blanchimont. It's a corner where either you go for it or you sit and set up for that bus stop. It's a sit and set up for the bus stop, but you can see A little bit more track taken there by Lee Horn. On the brakes, they'll focus on now trying to get this move sorted, but Clark, ever the patient at this moment, will now just have to be a little bit more alert to what he needs to do now to figure things out, because all of this battling right now between all these drivers, well, it was 3 seconds earlier on, it's now 8 over towards Romanenko and Walker.
Yes, absolutely. And with these four battling with each other, the exception of Clark maybe, who's just sitting behind patiently, these drivers, what they need to think about now at this point, as a few laps have been scrubbed on the tyres. Now, these tyres do wear rather quickly, more so than they did last year, and they get heated up very, very quickly indeed. Just to mention about Tonga Guardia, he's had a server disconnection, unfortunately, so that is race over, sadly for him.
Yeah, that's a real shame, that. So that will definitely hurt. The battle still continuing here, as it is going to be Clark on the inside in towards that next section of road, and he's thinking every time about how he gets himself through all of that positioning, but he doesn't quite get there. Another nice little battle going on here as Gorik and Elman change their places. You've got Dzerzski also going side by side a little bit further down with Anastasios Giradis, and then you've got Chris Bell in the background, so Dzerzski can't get there, or Derezhki can't quite get there right now, but he's got the run up the hill. He's now got a chance.
He has, and we just take a quick look to Elman as well, as he's right behind Gorik as well. Mighty try a move going into Bruce Shells here, potentially not. Let's revert back to Derezhki now. Took a look, but he's going to back out of it for now. We'll try on another corner as he backs off to try and get a good run, as Chris Bell in the Vexter Domi Cupra livery is closing in on the Renault and the Lynk & Co.
Certainly is, and now it's about focus here with a 3-car scrap a little bit further down the order. Very easy to get yourself all caught out if you're not too careful, so the focus is going to be very much there, at least at this moment in time. Now, Voltaire Elman trying every which way in the Hyundai, which looked absolutely fantastic last season, I'd have to say, in the inaugural running of this TCR Spa 50. Not so much this time, it seems. Alfa-Romeo's look good, but look at that damage on the front for Victor Gorik. That must be really hurting at Alfa-Romeo, with just how much of a crumpling there is on the front nose.
Yes, quite a bit, and it might have come from that incident that happened earlier on in the race, going towards the chicane, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be hampering it too much, and in fact he might be able to repair some of it in the pits later on. But at the moment, Gorik's still fighting in the top half of the field for 12th place, as Elman goes very sideways coming out of Blanchimont there.
There's sideways, then there's that. Well saved. It's worth noting that Adam Clark has just got through on Lee Horn, did so into the final chicane. So now Lee Horn finds himself down in 6th position. Adam Clark up into 5th at this moment in time. And all of this is focused. It's now starting to turn itself up into pack racing. Pack of 2 here, pack of 2 there. There's another little look then as Chris Bell looking to attack Anastasios Giradis. Tries to go around the outside, but that is a lock-up and a half through that corner, and I would say that is maximising the most suboptimal racing line.
Yes, and actually took a little bit of the grass there under braking. Probably a little bit too wide on entry going into the corner there for Chris Bell, but clearly he's got the pace to catch up with Georgiadis. He'll try again another day, but I think going back to Lee Horn, he has dropped back. Well, he was dropping back from Clark quite a bit, and they have both dropped back from Garunian and Foyle quite a bit. I wonder if Lee Horn and maybe Adam Clark as well are struggling at this point with tyre wear, as we're a couple of laps in, and when these tyres get to just past 20% tyre wear, they do struggle quite a bit. As we look at Garunian taking a look at William Foyle, Jake.
He's certainly looking. Buon is not the most conventional place in the world to go and make an overtake. He was looking left, looking right, looking up, looking down. Ultimately, though, he does not quite get there, and it's more patience waiting for Jiraiya Garunian, who will be feeling mighty frustrated behind William Foyle, who is just driving to his own cadence at this moment and doing exactly what he needs to, I would say, at this moment in time. Horn trying to stay close at the moment, as we've got another great little battle going on for the final spot inside the top 10. Tamas Jaeger trying to get back by Alex Foyle.
Yes, just trying to find the drivers then, but yeah, Jaeger behind Alex Foyle. Alex Foyle, one of the racers last year who finished in 11th actually, so one place above where he finished last year. Certainly an improvement on what he did last year. but Thomas Jaeger has dropped back a little bit through sector 2 there, and will have to gain back on foil on another lap potentially.
On another lap is the potential, so close but no cigars at the moment. Do want to focus though on those top two, Ben Walker and Konstantin Romanenko at the front, because it has been onto lap 9 we are right now, and it has been 8 straight laps of Ben Walker taking the race lead, and Romanenko has just been very content to sit behind, save the fuel, save the tyres, and I think he's trying to strategy Ben Walker out of a race win.
Absolutely, and the thing is with that Lynk, it rolls around a lot more and it is heavier than the Alfa-Romeo, so he might be finding that at this point in the race, as he frantically defends coming up to Lacombe there, the Lynk & Co might be wearing its tyres a little faster than the Alfa-Romeo here, as Romanenko has gained quite a few tenths in the last few laps.
He certainly has. He's kept that gap very nice, as has Garunian, who's very happy to sit back and wait. I'm sure that those two teammates will be talking about what they do in terms of strategy, how they position themselves forward. And I think patience has been the key over the course of this sort of run. Look how much Romanenko closes up through that second sector. They both run that wide line, extra tenths going back to Ben Walker. But really, this is about just staying calm. These two, we haven't talked much about them over the course of this race because they've just been quietly working to build their gaps. I do notice just a little bit further down the order, maybe a change for position on that back straight. Andy Withers and also David Kernahan then looking at it for position. It looks like Kernahan has made his way through.
Absolutely, and Andy Withers not giving up, just trying to stick to the rear end of Kernahan there. Coming down towards Bruxelles now. Might it be the opportunity to make a move? No, he's probably too far back, but now Kernahan sets his sights on Ben Sisko ahead of him.
Yeah, and of course Ben Sisko is about 2.5 seconds down, not very far down the road. He's about 0.7 of a second. It's then 3 seconds over towards Alex Ward. That's what I was getting my eyes a little bit caught up with at the moment, but it's on again for the lead. It's down to, I would say, about 0.6 of a second as they go on through. Big wide lines taken. Does Romanenko think about it here on the inside, or does he just hit the brakes a little bit early, lift and coast ever so slightly? He definitely is looking punchy. He's definitely putting Ben Walker under a bit of duress, but I don't expect these sorts of drivers to start playing anything Mickey Mouse, so to speak, between now and the end of this one. You've got to be very much eyes focused as they go through. It's worth noting that both drivers had invalidated laps in terms of last lap.
Yeah, trying to maximise everything they can. They've got 100 incident points to play with in this race, so trying to utilise what they can to stay ahead of each other. But you might find that one of these drivers will try the overcut or the undercut at some point in the next few laps, as tyres will be dropping off quite a lot at this point. It'd be very interesting to see if drivers go for more tyre changes in this race to try and get quicker lap times more consistently throughout the race, or they just stick with it and just continue gaining the gap. These two might actually be going for a longer strategy, as they are still pulling away from the pack, but Ben Walker goes wide there, Jake.
Yeah, and they're going to be door to door now, and that is for feeding out the entirety of the circuit there. Try and make sure they go through. Romanenko's not giving this one up. He'll have the inside surely now for Bruxelles, but being squeezed through the corner. Ben Walker goes. Romanenko knows he is very much in a scrap when it comes to this sort of race. There are no guarantees when you're out here and battling around, and that was really the case to be made over the course of that little run forward. Nobody was going to have troubles, and someone who has had troubles, I think, is Ben Sisko at this stage. He's decided, I think now at this stage, that he's getting his first stop in underneath the books. So Ben Sisko, this is pretty early here to be thinking about it, lap 10.
Yes, the jack up on the front there, so taking on front tyres at least. So Ben Sisko going for what could be a two-stop strategy for him. But we resume with this battle here. Very close quarters between these two at this point in the race. As I mentioned, the Lynk does go through its tyres a little quicker than the Alfa Romeo does. We might be finding that with the battle between William Fall and Garunian at this point as well. Not close enough to tell the tale just yet, but these two, as they come up towards Blanchimont now, this might be crunch time for Romanenko.
It certainly is. He's not got much of an overspeed. He's got a couple kph as he tries to follow in behind through this wonderful Blanchimont corner. Open up as much as you can. here as you try and go through the middle of the track, being defended well here by Walker. Romanenko's going to go around the outside, though, inside searching for the next one. Big up and under look coming along now from the Shan Lynk & Co. Romanenko will take his first lap lead here in this one, but Walker's going to have a fantastic run to come back here, thinking hard to the inside. They're battling like it's lap 50 right now. It's lap 11 they have got onto at this moment in time. So a really strong battle, and look at that up and under. Walker pretty much sending one to the post office. Stamp, lick, send.
That up and under was straight out of the Gary Owen textbook there. Brilliant from Ben Walker to take back that position there. An excellent move around the outside by Romanenko. Fantastic battling from these two drivers. As you said, only lap 11. We've got 40 more to go.
We certainly do, and these two want to make it an absolute showcase at the moment at the front, but they have to be careful about how hard they start battling. A little think again by Romanenko, and he'll back out of it this time, because they did drop over the course of the last lap and a half, nearly 1.5 seconds to William Foyle. That gap is 9.9 seconds. The last thing I'm sure that either of these two drivers want is someone else trying to spoil the party.
Absolutely, and William Foyle will see that with a bit of gold in his eyes. But look at that, Romanenko pushes Walker wide. He stays behind, probably out of respect to keep the position to Ben Walker, but they're so close, these two drivers, at this point.
They certainly are. There was no way that Romanenko could have got through there. There's just too much gravity working against through Bruxelles to get enough turn in through that section, but really it's starting to show how much they are really dropping in. The gaps starting to form now everywhere. It's the front six where the big battles are. You got Horn versus Clark still roughly about a second, and of course Garunian trying to work hard at this moment in time. Romanenko, of course, at the front is the key, but we do also have Ian Deeney now starting to fall back under pressure at this moment in time for about 9th and 10th place, because there is Alexander Foyle, and the Lynks have really come out in force looking to challenge. There's a big wide line there if ever we saw one. Thank you very much. That is saying cookies mine.
Yes, absolutely. And Alex Foyle broke away from Tamasiego. Only a few laps ago we saw them two close together. Foyle is hooking up a few very good laps here, as he'll now set his sights on 8th place Navalov. He made that very easy pickings there, as you mentioned, Jake. But Ian Deeney down to 10th now in the Alfa Romeo.
Here we go. It's just a thought there going in towards that final section. Did not pay off there. Sorry to cut you off like that, but really, this is a race lead battle, which is absolutely going off at this stage. Romanenko, I think, is a bit tired of staring at the back of that Shan Lynk & Co. And very much at this stage, I think Romanenko has pretty much memorised every little bit of sponsorship on the back of that car.
Yes, absolutely. Sick at the sight of blue. Now he wants to get the sight of Spa ahead of him as he comes down towards Eau Rouge. A good run through here. Let's go on board to see how he gets through this corner compared to Ben. Take plenty of the inside curve turning to the right, plenty of the inside curve turning to the left as they come onto the Camel stretch here. Not going to be close enough to make a move unless I'm mistaken. He is closing in quite a bit as we come up towards the Coombe here. He'll go outboard now, see if he takes a lunge. Not quite yet. Still Walker in front, Romanenko in second.
It's very much a case of that Shan Lynk & Co. just doing exactly what's needed. Now, Garunian here is also in the same boat, you could say. It's almost like you've got two mirrored battles, a Shan Lynk & Co. against one of those Alfa Romeo Giuliettas. And Jiraiya Garunian is just having to be very patient about the way he tries and figures out how to get this race all figured out. There has been a change a little bit further down for P18. Jürgen Madsby Pedersen on the recovery. He's through on Andy Withers.
Yes, and Andy Withers, who we thought was going to be closing in on Alex Ward, isn't, and Pedersen, who's involved in that instant further back. The two Renaults both were involved in that, so not a good day for the Renault team today. However, Pedersen making his way back through the pack. Pedersen, who's been one of the most improved drivers of the next-gen WTCR series and the Crest Autosport DTM series just gone. He did very well to get himself a top 10 overall in the Crest DTM Championship just gone. So let's see how much further up the grid he can get with a little bit of patience and perseverance throughout this race.
You know how he said Ben Sisko's the first driver to come in and make a stop? Yeah, Alex.
Out of the race.
Well, he's out.
Oh, poor fella. Well, yeah, thank you very much, Ben Sisko, for being a part of this race. Now, Ben Sisko, I have to tell you all, does suffer from cancer, unfortunately, and his his hands and his legs do get a little bit sore sometimes when he is racing, but fair play to him for giving a long race like this a go. So thank you to Ben Sisko for being a part of this today.
Ooh, a little wiggle there from Foyle, and that's going to allow Garunian to close it right up, but never put himself in the position to go out there and attack, so patience exercised at this moment in this race. So that's definitely something that they're keeping in mind the longer that this sort of race does go on, and they can't afford to battle too hard here, Foyle and Garunian, because you look at that gap behind to Adam Clark in 5th position, it's 1.8 seconds, or near enough 2 seconds, so it's not necessarily going to be a case of an easy one to close back down if you get yourself a little bit too feisty and start battling again. So that's very much where we're seeing at this moment in time all these drivers just trying to focus and put themselves in the right possible position.
Absolutely. And I believe the little red indicator that has appeared to the side of everyone's names on the timing tower indicates that the pit window is open, in fact. So if you have to take a mandatory pit stop in this race, which of course is inevitable anyway, as you can't go the full distance on a full tank of fuel, but they now can take that mandatory pit stop like what it is in Formula 1 from this point in the race.
Oh, they can, and it really does show at the moment as they try and figure out what they need out of it. What a run Romanenko's actually just had coming out of Jackie X, and there's the move. Oh, there's a slowdown.
Oh, yeah.
There's a slowdown. What a time for it for Ben Walker. Romanenko spearheads his way into the race lead. Walker's done well to keep that gap in a second. It's at 6/10, but just like that, lead change from, I would say, relatively nowhere.
Yes, now the hunted becomes the hunter now, so Ben Walker is going to have to knuckle down and try and get back up with Romanenko as they both take another wide line coming out of Lafania there. But yes, a slowdown penalty. We saw Walker running wide coming out of the Jackie X corner many times, and it's actually bitten him on the behind at this point as he drops behind Romanenko, now more than a second behind. Could this be the break-free moment for Romanenko in this race?
Definitely looks like it could be one of those realities. 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, both of them still on at the moment. Garunian behind Foyle, and then you've got Lee Horn in the Audi there trying to work hard against Adam Clark in 5th position. This is going to be very much a case of, are they comfortable with where they are, and at what point do you decide to comfortably dive down into the pits and try and work out where you need to be. Some very good focus coming in. Of course, there's a number of ways you can try and figure this one out. You can split the splits down 25-25 or co, or you can run it till the tank goes dry. It's a case of what sort of trade-off do you want, fuel versus tyre.
Absolutely, and at this point we can't really tell with any of these drivers, unfortunately. But go ahead, Jake.
I've just caught an eye on Alexander Foyle dropping massively down the timing stands.
Oh no, and that's not good. Him and William Foyle in the same household. So it is, sinking into the abyss. There is Alex Foyle. That is another disconnection for the Crest Autosport team. Never mind, move on. Alex Foyle might well be out of this race, unfortunately.
It definitely looks that way, and that will be a real shame for them. But William Foyle, I guess, in the same house, has a better connection, or he's more tethered, so being higher up in the race, he maybe had higher priority there, Alex.
Absolutely, they might be running on different bandwidths, networks, something like that, but William Foyle safe at the moment, and still running third ahead of Garunian here. It is very, very interlocked between these two. Garunian getting a little bit impatient by the looks of it. It's coming down to Bruchelles. He let William know he wants to take a look for the move. Takes a deeper line coming out of the corner, later apex, and now going through the Jackie Inks corner. You can see the different characteristics of these cars. The Lynk & Co, the longest car in the field, the Alfa-Romeo, the shortest car in the field, but Chris Bell disqualified, ignoring a drive-through penalty. So Chris Bell in the pits, shifted straight down to 27th. He must have had a notification to serve a drive-through penalty for perhaps speeding in the pit lane or not serving a slowdown penalty. That's race over for Chris Bell.
It is, and he was down there towards the mid to rear of the field, so everybody jump up. We're down to 21 drivers then in this battle at the front, or battle at the front in this race entirely, I'd say. Battle near the front, though. This is where it's getting very interesting. Jiraiya Garunian has effectively tethered a tow bar, it seems, to the back of William Foyle for the entirety of that second half of the lap.
Yes, and he's got a very good run coming out of Stavelot there. William Foyle already going defensive for a corner like Blanchimont coming up here. This is not the move, not the corner where you want to be taking defensive lines, but Garunian taking a much wider entrance into the corner, taking plenty of exit curb, moves to the outside, aborts and brakes behind William Foyle to stay in position for the time being, but Garunian all over the back of that Lynk & Co, which, as we mentioned many times so far in this race, tyre wear coming into play here. The Alfa Romeo might be dealing with it a little bit better than the Lynk & Co is.
I have to point out that the gap at the front is now 1.8 seconds here between Romanenko and Walker. It really has started to open up a little bit here with the work that Romanenko's done, just being patient, starting to stretch that gap as Walker maybe starts to compound a couple of mistakes here left and right. Never ideal in terms of this scenario, but it's all about running the pace and finding the cadence that's needed. And of course, there will be traffic to deal with later on in this sort of race, worth keeping in mind. Garunian, another really good run here in comparison to William Foyle. Gets it down to 1/10 of a second, and he'll have to pull out at some point. Leaves it as late as possible to get it going. But again, seems like those Alfa Romeos, they're not as good in a straight line. They're struggling to get by.
Yeah, the Lynk & Co seems very, very good in this straight line here. But, yeah, William Foyle hanging on to it at the moment. We were just mentioning about Ben Walker. He's dropping off a little bit from Romanenko. I've just had a blank moment. I forgot what I was going to say, Jake. But, yeah, it's very disappointing to see Ben Walker drop away because it was a very good battle between those two. We've also got to keep an eye on Lee Horn and Adam Clark as well here. They're getting closer and then breaking up a bit, getting closer and breaking up a little bit. It's a very interesting battle in pairs across the top six at the moment.
Yeah, I think Lee Horn here is trying to not lose the back end, and unfortunately, he's lost the back end. Thank goodness this isn't 90 Spa, because he has just used all of the Herman Tilke runoff now, and he will put himself right back with Fraser Rostance, his teammate.
That was a very young, characteristic move from, mistake, should I say, from Lee Horn there. The back end just had no luck with him, did it? It just... Coming around Piron there, it's a very loose rear end anyway on these cars around that corner, but yeah, very strange from Leon. I've never seen that from him.
It's very much a case in that sort of area of track where the Audi, when it does start wearing out its tyres, as Garunian again looks in a very nice place in comparison to William Foyle, thinking about a move. Are you going to be brave? Trying to force a way to the outside channel is not there as you try and dive on through. It's really a place with that Audi when those tyres start to just move and lose out a little bit, that they really do start to go on the rears first. And it's the rears, as a Walker, I do believe here right now, has made the first decision to dive into the pits.
Here we go. This is interesting. So 16 laps into the race. Yeah, Ben Walker with the first stop of the race, taking on tyres. We can see there as the jack lifts up. So now this is crucially important to see how his times will now compare to Romanenko's as he comes out of the pits with fresh tyres. Recent laps that they've been running. Now let's take a look at how they've been getting on. And straight out of the pits very quickly there for Ben Walker. He might have only taken on front tyres there. Very interesting strategy indeed from the first of the leading pack to act. And in fact, 3:14 was the last lap, so obviously that was the lap counting from the pits. So it'd be interesting to see what Romanenko could do next time he comes around past the start-finish line. And we'll see what Ben Walker can do on his next full flying lap.
Garunian again searching. Walker's come back out in 10th place, just ahead of Viktor Gorik, who will be another one of those Ukrainian drivers who'll be working hard in these Alfa Romeos to get as much as they can out of it. But Garunian's just used all the road up at Jackie Icht, trying to really push for it at this stage. No dice, trying to work on that one. So it's a case of patience once more for Jiraiya, who has found William Foyle to be his foil at this moment in time and just cannot find a way through. He's there, he's definitely quicker. It's clear that he's quicker, but the big clarity right now is that he is not quite in a position where he goes and strikes. And I wonder if it's maybe driving style by Ben Walker that he does chew up the fronts around this place, try to be aggressive with the turn in, and why he is so good over those opening few laps that we saw, that maybe he's going for a 2-tyre call on this first stop, and then he gets a full stop done when he goes in for potentially a second stop here today, sometime around maybe lap 35.
Yeah, I would say you're correct there. He will also have to take on fuel, perhaps at that point where the car, on a full tank anyway, gets to around about 33 laps, as we said.
It was another little thought from Jiraiya Garunian. Again, it was a thought process, but one that was only just that, a thought. There has been a move a little further down in the pack. Lucas Derejki has found a way through on Andy Withers for 18th place.
Oh, and Derejki goes wide, in fact, in doing so. So, yeah, I think this is the point in the race where the front tyres are really going to struggle. It's hard to tell what kind of tyre wear they'll be on, perhaps about 50%, but it is becoming very difficult for these drivers as the lap times really have slowed down at this point.
Lee Horn's just come into the pits then from 5th position, so of course he was struggling. The rears maybe going in the Audi more than the front, so his decision to take that stop, he'll be looking to try and get himself back out there and going again, and we are very much in the pit cycle now at this stage, with everyone just trying to focus on where they need to be in these stages right now, and everyone's just going to have to be alert to all the work that's going on, because Adam Clark as well, he's been released away from Lee Horn as Horn is out and away again, down in 12th place. Big key has been, well, how much do you get? Worth noticing, Lee Horn only 5 seconds back of one Mr. Ben Walker, so it seems like to me that Walker has taken a little bit of fuel in that stop.
He might have, yes, just a little bit of fuel to keep him going, keep the fuel tank a little bit lower than others potentially to get a little bit more speed down the straight as well. Interesting tactic from Ben Walker, but yeah, losing a bit of time to Lee Horn there, might that lose him time to Romanenko? I guess time will tell, but the interesting thing now is when are these drivers going to come in the pits? Romanenko would be conscious of what kind of lap times Ben Walker can do now, because if Ben Walker can do 2 or 3 laps even, maybe a couple of tenths quicker than Romanenko, he might just get the undercut.
I'm just keeping an eye out on first sector times. They were very similar in their opening sector overall, and in fact I would say that Romanenko was quicker in the second sector over that last lap also. So I'd say, at least at this moment, Romanenko is in a good position. He's running very similar and very good lap times here. Thinking about his stops, Lee Horn has got through on Ola Janssen now for position for 11th place, as another lap will continue on then for your leader. But Lee Horn having to negotiate through the traffic at this stage, and I say traffic in inverted commas because they are allowed to fight each other for position. They are allowed to make it as difficult as they possibly can. Absolutely
no blue flags at this point. There's no drivers any laps down at this point in the race, so Lee Horn has to fight his way through, and I suppose that's the compromise of pitting early, is you do end up coming out in the packs. I mean, there's not too many battles here in the just below top 10. But Lee Horn past Ola Janssen now, able to pounce on Gorick. Adam Clark in the pits.
Yeah, this is the key that I was just about to go and talk to, is also we got Girardis in a bit of trouble out there. He's had a big spin in the second sector, and that's going to put him in all sorts of trouble as he tries to get himself going again. But really, how is Clark going to come out here in comparison to the likes of Ben Walker? He's going to go flying on by, and if Lee Horn goes flying on by as well, Adam Clark is taking a full committed stop then on lap 18 to get himself home and dry. Looks like it's a lot more committance on the fuel from Adam Clark. He'll go through turn number 1. He will fall behind Lee Horn, who of course he was ahead by about 6 seconds before Lee Horn made his stop, and he's come out behind by about 3 or so. So that would indicate to me that Adam Clark has taken quite a bit more fuel on, and he's looking to go as far as he can, if not to the end.
Yes, absolutely. This is very interesting now, where if Clark has taken on a full tank of fuel, he'll actually be slower than Horn on his first couple of laps here. While he's got a heavy car on top of him, he's got a heavy car anyway in the Lynk & Co, heaviest in the field. So it'd be interesting to see the lap times of Clark in a few laps time. But Lee Horn with a 2:55.8 last time, so obviously that was his out lap coming from the pits. Ben Walker, who got himself an invalidated lap time. Thanks, Ben. We could have done with seeing that time to compare you to Romanenko, whose last time was a 30.5, which is 1.3 seconds off of his outright best in the race so far.
Yeah, we're getting more takers then down on the lane. Withers has come in and out of his stop. Madsby Pedersen is down there in the boxes as well. Long time for him. There is Girardis. He is in there. Yes, he's definitely in there making a good work of things. But now Lee Horn has got eyes on Victor Goric here, and this will be an important overtake. He's got to dispatch quickly because if Lee Horn wants anything, he's got to deal with what I would say are team players of the game for the Ukrainian drivers of Romanenko and Garunian. Lee Horn is a factor in this one. Maybe not so much as Ben Walker, but definitely a factor with the way he stopped, and that was an easy dispatching in towards campus.
Yeah, Victor Goric not getting in the way of Lee Horn, knowing he's quicker than him, so lets him go, which was very interesting indeed. But the gap between Lee Horn and Ben Walker, 9 seconds. I believe that gap was a lot shorter before them, but either of them came in the pits earlier. So Lee Horn doing very well on his outlap here, it seems. Good first couple of laps or so might get him perhaps an undercut on Garunian and Fall as well is something to think about.
Max Clark in the background there, getting the move done on Ola Janssen, jumping up into 11th as he runs a little bit wide and should be able to gather that back up again. So wonderfully done. No real takers onto the lane that time by, which was very alert and interesting to see with that time as he goes through. But I'm sure everyone's trying to think about what they need to do. There's a couple of takers there in the background going into the pits then. It looks like that is going to be Alex Ward deciding it's his time to pit.
Yeah, the next-gen driver in the Vexter machine there. Teammates with Chris Bell, who has sadly retired from this race. A lot of damage on Alex Ward's car, so maybe you'll get some of that repaired in this stop as it jacks up to take on tyres. So we'll keep an eye on the gaps elsewhere in the field. Now, something interesting. William Fall has broken away from Zarai Garunian, and in fact, on the last lap, William Fall lapped quicker by only 0.2, granted, but still quicker than Romanenko.
Yep, still quicker, still doing a very, very good job of things, at least at this moment in time. And there is William Foyle just trying to calmly go around his business and put himself in the best possible position he can. He knows what he is capable of doing. He knows what he needs out of this race, and he just needs to stay consistent right now as we actually have Tamas Jaeger all of a sudden in a really strong position, trying to fight with Ian Deeney, who looks absolutely worse for wear at this moment with the way he's driving. Walker's absolutely monstered onto the back of them right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Deeney decides to come in this time. There's contact between them as they dive through, and they pretty much trade their paints as they go on by. This is the last thing someone like Ben Walker wants. Two drivers fighting for position. He's got to get by both of them, A, S, A, and P.
Yeah, Walker would not be happy with these two ahead of him. Jaeger swinging the car about, trying to get a slingshot move up the inside of Ian Deeney, going to Lafagna there. But Ben Walker is going to be frustrated at this point, holding up him in this position here, only 9 seconds clear of Lee Horn. He'll be conscious of that. He'll also be conscious of how his times will compare to Romanenko. But Romanenko had an invalid lap time, so it's hard to compare him to Ben Walker on this lap. But this will certainly be slowing down Ben Walker as Jaeger nearly went into the side of Ben Walker then.
Very nearly, but on the brakes they go as they challenge on through. Worth noting that Romanenko is having a few connection issues as Tamas Jaeger dives into the pit. So I've been seeing how the timing stand has been flicking up and down a little bit with a couple of drivers in a bit of trouble. Foyle as well, I think, is one of those drivers who is maybe having a few issues too. So we'll see how this one goes as they continue. Foyle's got 1.6 now over Garunian, and it's definitely Romanenko who is starting to blink in and out a little bit and struggle with things going on at this moment in time.
Yes, and that'll be something that really frightens the driver's mind if they're having connection issues on their end. But we look to Ben Walker looking to get by Ian Deeney at the moment. The tow will certainly be helping him along, but he will not want the battle with Ian Deeney on this lap. This will be a lap in particular, about 3 laps in on the tyres lifespan here for Ben Walker. He'll want some good laps out of that car now.
He definitely will. He's dispatched the battle as quickly as he possibly could, and now he's going to make up for a little bit of lost time here at this moment. So that is definitely some focus that we've got at this moment in time. Walker in 6th position, definitely in 6th position, but definitely having to work hard, at least at this moment in time, to keep himself very quietly in this position for at least the time being. We are very much in the opening 20 laps here of action that we've got going on as we focus on Lee Horn there in 8th place. And Lee Horn is not a million miles away in terms of time from Ben Walker. It's only 8 seconds, the gap at the moment. So Lee Horn, he's got a little bit of work to do, but 8 seconds back of Ben Walker. I think he's doing a really, really good job with that much, I would say, shorter fill in comparison to some of his rivals.
Absolutely, yes. And Lee Horn actually has brought that gap. It's ticking underneath 7 seconds gap to Ian Deeney and Ben Walker. It's about a 9-second gap. But Lee Horn on that last lap was the fastest person on the track with a 2:30.1. Romanenko has just set a 2:30.6. So certainly at this point in the race, those early stoppers are going to be the quickest on the track. Ben Walker will need a good lap here. We'll keep an eye on him to see what kind of lap time he can do at the end of this lap. But this might be a very, very key point in the race for Ben Walker to try and retake that lead from Romanenko.
But the key is that it is a trade-off that you get. If you're quick now, you might not be quick later when you've used up some of the tyre life that we've seen moving forward, which will not be ideal in terms of the way that they want this sort of racing to go. So it's all about the trade-off. How good is it compared to how bad is it? And that is going to be the next focus that we see over the course of this sort of stint. Worth noting that Konstantin Romanenko has actually pulled that gap out now to 14 seconds over William Foyle now. So definitely flying forward with everything that is possibly needed at this moment in time. And I'm sure a lot of drivers up and down the order are focusing on, well, now we're getting into that range where we could go to the one stop. Yes, the tyres are going to be hurting at this point of the race, lap 20, lap 21, there or thereabouts. But if they can get it to 25, they'll be going, well, okay, that's how much we've done this time. That's how much it hurts. All we've got to do is that exact same stop again. Yeah,
it's a very interesting point you've raised there, Jake. Romanenko only 5 to 6 laps away from that halfway point. In fact, 4 laps from that halfway point. If he can get it to that point, well, why can't he go for a one-stop? It's certainly on the cards.
It is on the cards, and we've been racing for almost an hour now at this point as Ben Walker gets within a second of Hajka Nevelov, and this little scrap, which will be going on now for 5th place. So Walker is absolutely on one at this moment in time. His focus is diving through the field, gaining place upon place upon place, and he knows better than anybody else at this moment in time. He's just got to put those laps in on the board, check them off, because I'd say at this point, Ben Walker is looking to try and build up a stop. Well, you're not going to build that gap up. You're going to go rallycross style out to the Fania chicane.
Yeah, absolutely. But while I look at it, Lee Horn's, again, of the valid lap time, set the quickest. And as you said earlier, Jake, to be wary of is the tyres will drop off on these cars and drivers later on in the stint. But Lee Horn has actually lost a gap from Ben Walker. So even though Ben Walker's invalidating his lap times by running wide on certain corners, he goes a little bit sideways through Bonchemont, Ben Walker could well actually be the fastest person on the track right now.
Well, he's not going to be the fastest if he's stuck behind where he needs to be. He's trying to open up his final corner, get that patented drive out of the final chicane to give himself that room and availability to go out there and attack. He will move across, of course, to the outside, trying to gather up that wonderful up and under line. He'll have to do the long way around, though, because of how Nevelov defends, and that is going to be drive on the exit. Nevelov still trying to fight this one here on the inside, still trying, and ultimately they are as is for the time being out there at the moment. Do want to keep out in mind, Victor Goric has now just decided to dive in, and of course he is a driver who's got a bit of damage on that front that might need repairing.
Yes, this would be key for Goric to get a little bit of that damage repaired, and it might actually improve his pace a little bit. He might be able to creep into that top 10, which he has been on the fringes of throughout this race. So a very important stop here for Goric, not too far from the halfway point. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of a strategy he'll go for now. Maybe he's going to go for a full tank of fuel and just push it to the end now. But the drivers you can see perhaps in the top 6 or maybe even 7 with the exception of Ben Walker in 5th there. They might be the drivers going for the one stop now, Jake.
I think they are, and I think it's very much been the case today. 1 versus 2, and you'd say at the moment, with how everyone's come down in and made their stops, at least at this moment in time in the race here, Alex, that it's, I would say, a 60-40 split between those going 1 stop and 2 stop in favour of the 1 stops. Yeah,
I would say so as well, but I've got to say that a 40-second gap for Ben Walker now, as quick as we've seen he can be, that certainly probably is too much to try and close back in on Romanenko. So certainly at this point, it seems largely favourable to the one-stop strategy, but only time will tell.
I think at the moment Romanenko doesn't really care what the gap is to Ben Walker, because he knows that Walker pitted so early, first taker of anybody of real note into the pit. I don't think he is too bothered about that. I think he's focusing on one thing and one thing only at this moment in time, and that is Konstantin Romanenko at the front of the pack. So that is the focus. That is what he's going to be putting his mind over to, and that's how he is going to continue as this race goes on. A nice bit of gappage all throughout the field now at this moment in time. Some drivers who've been making some really good progress here in this race that we haven't really had a chance to talk about. I'd say Ola Janssen right now in 10th position. He is doing a very, very nice job of things in the Cupra, and we haven't seen many Cupras in this field.
No, we haven't. Ole Janssen being one of them, actually the highest of the Cupras, as you mentioned. Kernahan as well, and Alex Ward, and the retiree of Chris Belber. Ole Janssen doing very well here. He started quite far down the order. I'll just remind myself of where he actually started. 17th, so up a few places at the moment into the top 10 as it stands, pending a pit stop, but not a bad showing so far from Janssen.
Not a bad showing at all. Jiraiya Garunian has done really well, actually, over the course of the last couple of laps. A bit of lap traffic they've had to navigate their way by at this stage, but Garunian right now is all over the back again of William Foyle, and that doesn't surprise me when it's Lynk versus that very nimble Alfa Romeo, and had to get well out of it going through Pouhon there for fear of absolutely spearing the back of William Foyle. So Garunian, small mistake there as he couldn't quite work out where his braking point was, and that costs half a second as he goes through.
Yes, and Garunian getting... I certainly think with that Alfa Romeo, whilst the front tyres will be degrading quite a bit, it's still got a loose rear end anyway, which compensates a little bit for that. With the Lynk, it's a bit like a bus where it just goes straight on when you turn it, particularly on high tyre wear. So that would be certainly Will's Achilles heel at the moment. But with a corner like Pouhon, where it's just descending down the hill through a long left-hander, that would be where the Alfa Romeo does struggle at this point in the race.
It certainly does, and that's going to be worth keeping in mind the longer that this race does go on. You are here watching, of course, the Crest Autosport WTCR Spa 50 out there right now, sponsored by TrakRacer. If you go to TrakRacer.com and use the fantastic promo code CREST, you can get 5% off of any purchase of any sim racing equipment there at TrakRacer. So, work to be done in this race. This is the point where you keep your eyes peeled and say, S for strategy. That is very much the focus. Lee Horn has dispatched of Ian Deeney in the meantime. So Ian Deeney now has dropped back into 8th position here in this race and should be due at some point to dive down in and make a stop. But he's going around there pretty nicely. Adam Clark, not a million miles away from Lee Horn either. Keep him in mind over the course of this race. He's only about 4 seconds off the drift of Lee Horn, which I think is good work and good progress at this stage.
Yeah, I'd say so with Adam Clark, and we do think anyway that he's taken on more fuel, so perhaps his next stop will be pretty quick. But look at that, Garunian and Foyle alongside each other going through the Coombe there, and William Foyle hangs on to the position again ahead of the Ukrainian.
They're starting to really affect each other right now because they know the pit stop's coming up. So is this just a case of fighting for track position, or is this just a case of being really, really aggressive? It's very easy in this sort of place, and just look how Garunian takes a much more earlier conversion through Jackie Ick's corner. He gets over to the right really quickly to open up that section. Again, Foyle decides to defend it through Pouon right now, but I think he may have just pushed a little bit too wide. He's just about okay. Really, Garunian right now, it's very easy to get yourself, I would say, the blinkers on as you fight in this sort of position of the race and completely forget that, you know, you're dropping time here, there and everywhere to drivers who have already made stops.
Yeah, exactly, and losing time to drivers who haven't made stops in the name of Romanenko. 18 seconds down now. Only a lap or two ago it was a 15-second gap between Foyle and Romanenko. But these guys, when they do come into the pits, they might need to worry about the drivers coming behind, as you said, who have made stops, so i.e. Ben Walker, Lee Horn, for example. But yeah, we'll just have to see how these two get on. They've been fighting all race long. An absolute tireless battle between these two, which is great to watch.
Oh, it absolutely is, and it looks like it's going to be close, as is this one. Lee Horn trying to battle with Hajka Nevelov, and at least for the moment, Nevelov is not going to make this one easy for Lee Horn. He's going to have to figure out how he goes and makes that move, and this is going to be an important point in this race on how you go out there and attack. He's got the inside, but that's going to turn to the outside at the all-important corner, which is not going to be, I would say, ideal at the moment. Issues for Kernahan out there on track. He's having a few technical gremlins as well, but not going to get it there through Blanchemont. You're going to have to open this one up to the final chicane here, Lee. If you want to get this one done, he's thinking about which way do I go and do it. He's going to figure around the outside is going to be the best place. He sweeps on around and can't get it done. Has to use the old elbows out mechanic there, and the elbows out got it done.
Yes, absolutely. Taking the outside line, trying to anyway for Blanchemont, and did so again for the chicane. Lehorn on fresher tyres than Navalov as well, so that will certainly help him. But look back here, Adam Clark reeling in, or trying to reel in Lehorn as he makes a move on another Alfa Romeo. Likewise to Lehorn, he gets himself up to 8th place. You've got to say, he's actually closing the gap on Lehorn, as it's only a 3-second gap between them now.
Yep, so Adam Clark is just quietly putting the laps in, just knocking them off one at a time, one at a time. It's all he needs to be thinking and focusing on at this moment in time. Just every lap, one at a time. You put yourself in the best place. Great battle between Derezhki and Alex Ward. Ward, of course, I believe, has just managed to find the way through after making his pit stop. Derezhki has not yet made his stop. So that is Ward just comfortably dispatching of another place then. As on cue, about 25 laps to go, 26 laps left. Derezhki decides, you know what, it's about my time here in this Renault Megane to come in and make a stop.
Yeah, we might see other drivers have a similar ambition now to Derezhki, as we are on the halfway point now as he decides to come in. So this certainly is going to be one-stop territory now for these drivers. It's got to be. There's no way it won't be. But yeah, Derezhki taking on perhaps all fours and a little bit of fuel potentially as well. He could be the first of the one-stoppers to come in. Only time will tell with that, mind.
Only time, of course, is telling. Romanenko is staying out there and going as long as he possibly can at this moment in time. This has been some wonderful racing by him at the front of this field, and he's got more lap traffic in his mind that he is thinking of. I believe it is Andy Withers in 16th position, who his next focus is going to be, as again, Jirai Garunian now is actually taking this decision to dive down into the lane and make a pit stop along with William Foyle. So second and third pit exactly at the same time as each other.
Oh, it really is the battle of the titans, isn't it? So who is going to be the quickest in the pit lane here? Both in the pit stop stall now. Garunian pulls up. So keep an eye on William Foyle in the blue and yellow Lynk Co back there. Garunian, his car isn't jacked up yet, which means he's taking on fuel. Just take a look at William Foyle. His car now jacks up, so this is going to be a pretty long pit stop for these two. We've got to also keep an eye on Lee Horn as he comes across the line to retake the position, but we do think that Lee Horn will probably need to take on tyres again. But Garunian, Rostance and William Foyle still there in the pits, losing plenty of time. Foyle leaves the pits now. Garunian hasn't jacked down. Now William Foyle gets ahead where he was before, but has certainly had a much better pit stop than Garunian. He'll have a few seconds buffer to the Ukrainian now.
By few seconds buffer, I would say few seconds buffer on fuel. is the key there to that one. So the instant of the battle was very much alert, as now leaving pits will be Fraser Rostance then, as he gets himself out and going again. Ole Janssen down in the pit, as is Hajka Nevelov, and also Ian Deeney as well, just about leaving pits right now. Mark Voltaire Elman is in the pits, as is Scott McLean, also back there looking to try and make those stops. So the big key is Romanenko waiting for everybody else to go and make that stop, as is tradition with this sort of racing that you go. You wait for everyone behind you to make that stop, and you react the moment everyone behind you has gone in and stopped. And I'm sure Romanenko this time by is probably going to use this as the moment he dives down into the pits.
Yes, very clever from Romanenko. All of his rivals have come into the pits, and now he has a bit of traffic ahead of him. Let's see if he goes in. Yes, he does.
Just like that. Expect him to fall behind Walker. The issue will be whether he falls behind Horn or not. I think that's where the battle is.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Worrying about Lee Horn ahead of him will certainly be a worry. He has Adam Clark close to him, also does Horn. So taking on all fours potentially will be Romanenko, taking on fuel as well. Now, this is going to be real crucial. Ben Walker, as you said, will inevitably pass him, but Ben Walker, we do suspect, may need to take on another set of tyres. We're not sure regarding fuel, because we did see he had a slower stop than Lee Horn. So might he have enough fuel to go to the end, and might he just risk keeping this these tyres going to the end? So Romanenko's still in the pits there as Ben Walker makes his way past. So Walker retakes the lead, but we've got to say for how long, as we're not quite sure what Walker's plan is here.
No, we're not sure at all. Lee Horn as well. Now leaving the pits here is going to be Konstantin Romanenko. This is going to be close, but I think Romanenko's got this one here as he will exit the lane. Horn will get a nice bit of power on, so back out in second for Romanenko. What a wonderful bit of work he's done over that stint, as he has just quietly played the game to, I would say, perfection. He's got 10 seconds to focus on, 25 laps, or 23 laps now, you'd say at this stage, 24, to try and figure a way back to someone like Ben Walker, who, remember, is probably on something to akin 10 laps old tyres.
Yes, that's going to be the crucial thing here now. A 10-second gap. Now, it's going to be really, really difficult to tell. Now, with Romanenko on completely fresh rubber, he might be able to match the times that he had earlier, and with less fuel potentially than what he had earlier. A 29.2 is what he got earlier, and Ben Walker is currently lapping 30.3. So there is potential that in about 10 laps or so, but once Romanenko warms up his tyres, might be able to reel in Ben Walker.
Last mandatory taker then is down in the lane. David Kernahan then is in for his stop, so he will look to try and keep himself nicely poised and placed here in this sort of run, keep himself nicely situated as he goes on through. Do have to say though, with Lee Horn, he is within a second here of Konstantin Romanenko, who's probably got to get those tyres up to temperature over these first couple laps. That's why Horn's within a second.
Yes, and it does in fact take about 2 to 3 to 4 minutes to warm up these tyres. So Romanenko will be feeling the pressure, breath on the back of his neck from Lee Horn potentially. So Lee Horn will see the opportunity to get ahead of Romanenko, ahead of him, and battle for that position. I am convinced that Lee Horn will need another stop. Ben Walker I'm not too sure about, but Lee Horn certainly has an opportunity to grasp something more out of this race with Romanenko ahead of him there.
I do have this feeling that if Ben Walker is trying to take this one all the way to the end, he's in trouble, and David Kernahan has got a drive-through penalty. He's been caught speeding in the lane. Naughty man with the gun at the end of the lane says, nope, I've got you, here's your ticket.
Oh dear indeed, yeah, a rookie error to make on RaceRoom, which is quite a strict sim anyway when it comes to speeding in the pit lane, but that will certainly not help Kernahan's race here. He'll drop further down the order potentially to the last of the runners, to potentially 20th, even 21st place. We'll see what happens, but that is a real shame for him on his debut to the Crest Autosport RaceRoom Leagues.
It is a shame, but sometimes it is the way that it goes around this sort of place. We've got other battles out there. So Derejki is fighting with Matthew Addy out there on the circuit. 1T in Matthew. I've never really understood that as a naming convention, having only 1T. But at least Matthew Addy in 18th in the Volkswagen is having himself a really good battle.
Yeah, I prefer the way Matthew spelt with 1T, actually, but we haven't mentioned him much today. He was involved in that kerfuffle at the beginning of the race, where there were lots of drivers just piling into each other, going into the chicane, and he is recovering rather well here. He's made up a few places, and he's reeling in Derejki. He's going to gain a position with Kernahan's drive-through penalty coming up, so potentially a good comeback here as we descend into the second half of the race here. Matthew Addy on the charge.
And so is Lee Horn right now, but I'm sure Romanenko is going to be desperate to just shake Lee Horn. They got the gap down. Did Lee in the Leopard Racing Team Audi Sport colours there, that Audi in the next-gen racing machine, over to 0.3 of a second. Middle sector comes along. It's now 0.6 of a second. Romanenko, of course, with much fresher tyres, starting to find their operating window and starting to just say bye.
Yep. Tyres switching on now, and if we know Romanenko well, he will certainly be hitting big lap times in these next few laps or so. Something to keep an eye on, as his quickest time is 29.2, which was 0.15 quicker than that of Ben Walker's fastest time, and Ben Walker didn't really set the world alight when he came out the pits earlier, so Romanenko certainly in the advantage point at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely does, and that advantage becomes more and more the longer that this goes on. It's about 9.9 gap that you got at the moment, so Walker here is starting to just have a little look at how things are going on for him right now, and I think he may have had a bit of traffic down there at the final section, or a moment potentially, Ben Walker, because that gap did just creep down very, very aggressively through that final section. You can see there a couple of drivers there behind. He's probably had to just negotiate a way through Jürgen Mansby Pedersen and Anastasios Georgiadis. So not ideal for Ben Walker, but of course, if you don't hit the traffic in the right way, the drivers behind still have to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've got a yellow flag in the first sector as Kernahan has taken a spin. It involved him and Matthew Addy by the seams of it. Unfortunately, we can't get a replay, and Ben Walker has got a yellow flag situation as he's catching up onto the incident where Kernahan took a spin. It might have, unfortunately, yeah, we can't get a replay, but something happened between two drivers there as the race just goes from bad to worse for Kernahan with a lot of damage on the front end there. Yeah, well, not a very good few laps for him.
No, it hasn't been a few good laps, and it very much shows it hasn't been a good few laps for him. When it rains around Spa-Francorchamps, you know it pours, and that has definitely been the case here today with all of the issues that have been going around. There is a bit of damage out there as well for Kernahan, so he is going to be down in a straight line on top of that. So ultimately, a really big choke point for him in this race as he wants to try and chase down as much as he possibly can here in this sort of run here today. So still a lot more to come along. Your top 10 then as things stands. Ben Walker in control. With Konstantin Romanenko then in second. Lee Horn finds himself then in third position outright, just a couple seconds back of that. He's being chased by Adam Clark in fourth position overall. Long work to do in the chase for William Foyle and Jiraiya Garunian. They are in fifth and sixth, and they're going to try and chase onto the back of Horn and Clark between now and the end, with Fraser Rostant all the way back in seventh position. Tamas Jaeger is having a quiet race, the third Audi in this field. He's in eighth position, with Hajka Nevelov there in ninth, and Ian Deeney rounding out the top 10, two Alfa Romeos, then ninth and 10th at least for the time being. But a lot of work to be done between now and the end of this race, and the key's going to be how good is the performance going to be from Foyle and Garunian to chase down Horn and Clark?
Yeah, this is one of the interesting comparisons on the field, and in fact, Adam Clark and Lee Horn, are on older rubber, are actually lapping around about the same as William Foyle. Jiraiya Garunian's doing rather well with a 30.1 on his last lap, and these drivers will complete another lap now. Lee Horn has had an invalidated lap time, a 30.7 for Adam Clark. William Foyle will cross the line now, which will set him an invalid lap time. Thanks, Will, we wanted to know that. But a 30.4 for Garunian, so really you've got to say 11 seconds back between William Foyle and Adam Clark. It certainly isn't looking good for Will and Zara at the moment, as they just can't reel in Adam Clark and Lee Horn yet, as their tyres are still relatively competitive at the moment.
Well, the key's going to be at what point, and that will be the focus as things go on. Matthew Addy is right back on the rear again of Lukasz Derejki, who of course is on that one-stop strategy. So Addy with work to do then in the Volkswagen, searching for a place and an opportunity to go out there and make overtakes happen out there on circuit. 17th position overall right now, and really what you'd say is that every position in these stages right now, with how spread out the field is, you focus on hot lapping, hitting your marks and taking the one place. You think of things one lap at a time.
Yes, absolutely, in a race like this. And for Addy at this moment, it is just one place at a time. Once he's got Derejki out the way, he just has to knuckle down and focus on just time and time on each lap to catch up with more positions ahead. Luck might fall in his favour in the form of pit stops. Luck might fall in his favour in the form of incidents between drivers. This will just be the key move for him now, though, to establish a better position in this race. 16th up for grabs for Addy, and Derejki hanging on for dear life at the moment to 16th.
Yep, so there we are seeing here just how everyone is being alert to the battling we've got. There is Konstantin Romanenko out there on screen in second position overall as things stands, is flying about at the moment, has pulled the gap down to about 8.5 seconds here at the front, not chipping massively away at Ben Walker, but he doesn't need to at this stage. Does very, very well through this section. I think Walker again is just struggling a little bit when it comes through that final section, or it just might be the way that timing is scored, that you're always going to drop a second and then gain a second going through that final chicane. So Ben Walker definitely alert to battling, as will Victor Gorick at this stage. Gorick in a really nice scrap up the Mulsanne. He's going to go to the inside of Andy Withers. Damage or no damage, that Alfa Romeo is going to get it done.
Absolutely good, well executed move from Victor Gorick there, who has damage on his car, so actually his top end speed will probably be a little bit compromised, but does make good matters work there as he gets into 14th there. Luck hasn't been on his side in this race, as you can tell by the damage on the front end there, but you know, picking one place at a time. There's not too much of a gap to Scott McLean ahead, as we just checked the gap. There's less than 5 seconds between them, so the top 13, unlucky for some, but that would certainly be good luck for Gorick as he goes a little bit sideways through Pouan there, pushing everything he can out of the 2018 Alfa there.
Yeah, he just wants to break away from Andy Withers, A, S, A and P in terms of this sort of race. This is the sort of battling that you see out there on track, which is going to be ideal for some, maybe not for others. Also, we'll keep an eye on Hajka Nevalov as he tries to keep Tamas Jaeger in check just in front. That gap is about 2.5 seconds right now, and could be one that inside of 20 laps to go now we find ourselves, could be one that he's just trying to just quietly check off and work in his sort of favour.
Well, it's certainly a game of chess going on between them, and they're both definitely in blitz mode at the moment, as Nevalov and Jaeger have both set their best laps of the race on that last lap. So, but Nevalov the quicker of the two by 0.3. This might become an intense battle later on in the race.
I'm having an eye on Alex Ward, who is reversing backwards through pit lane. So I don't know if he's missed his box. I don't know whether he's got issues, if he's trying to get himself going forward again. Either way, Alex Ward is not having much fun.
No, and it might have been an issue assigning the pit command there for Alex Ward. I think, right, that's the only reason I could see it with the pit stop shenanigans there, because he did reverse into his slot and then just went again. So yeah, this is a little bit awkward for Alex Ward at the moment as he plummets down the order, now down to 15th. We'll see if he comes in at the end of this lap, but not good for him at the moment.
No, and that's going to be ideal. Now that's key. diving down into the pits there. That is Lee Horn. So we are very firmly, it seems, in the window of those going for a two-stop strategy here today. Horn will be going for a splash and a dash and hoping that his strategy works out quite nicely. The only issue he's got right now with this sort of stop is that he has got to pretty much be out there going and gunning faster than anybody else.
Yes, William Full and Garunian make their way past Lee Horn. Fraser Austin's a long way down the road, so you could say the top 6 is nice and settled at the moment for Lee Horn, and he definitely did take on fuel there because the car is only just jacked up for its tyres. You can't fill the car with fuel and put on tyres at the same time, as is the case with many endurance races. It's not quite the fast pit stop you see at Indy, or even quicker with Formula 1. So he gets away around about 20 seconds in that stop, and I do beg your pardon as Fraser Austin has found his way past Lee Horn as he takes a wide line coming out of last source there. But Lee Horn rejoins the track in 7th place. First of the 2 stoppers to come in that we can take note of anyway. So yeah, this it's hard to see right now if Lee Horn has picked the right solution or right strategy here, Jake.
Doesn't look like it, because you look at where Lee Horn is right now, and say, for example, Fallen Garunian, he was only a handful of seconds back of as he was fighting early on in this race. He's now a full 30 seconds back of them. So I really struggle to see how stopping today is the right call. And this really puts Ben Walker in a little bit of a pickle here, because unless he is going to fuel save like everything depends on it, he's going to be taking his 30 seconds. He might even fall back to 5th place here in this sort of one. Romanenko, at least at this moment, is going through and trying absolutely everything under the sun to try and make sure that this one stays as a close battle.
Yeah, Romanenko, you touched upon it earlier, but Romanenko will not be worried at this point. He will just be clocking up the lap times like he has all race long, and he'll just wait for either Ben Walker to come into the pits, and that'll be easy pickings for Romanenko. Or Walker's tyres will drop off, perhaps in the final 20% of this race, the final 10 laps of this race, but Romanenko is reeling in Ben Walker anyway. He is the fastest man on the track. He will not be worried, but actually, as I say that, Ben Walker is in the pits.
He certainly is, so this is definitely a 2-stop. He's got no choice. He's got to take the fuel, got to take maybe a few tyres as well, get himself back out there and going again. He's tried everything here in this one. Watch as Foyle and Garunian will make their way by. 1 stop was the way forward here today. No doubts about it. And now you're starting to see where it hurts. It's worth noting that Alex Ward is in the pits for a 3rd time here in this one, as well as Matthew Addy into the pits for his 2nd stop. Walker then, in terms of where he is, well, there he goes, straight by the cameras, as he will get himself out and away in what I would describe as a very comfortable P5.
Yes, it seems quite set for Ben now. He's going to have to get his head down for 18 laps and really rag the stuff out of that car to try and make up some places here. It really hasn't worked out for Ben Walker at this point, unless something does happen further up the field. There's no safety cars or anything like that to help them out in these sort of races. So Ben Walker, all to play for now, all to be done for him. As a slightly different top 3 now to what we have seen throughout the race. Romanenko at the top, which he has established himself in for much of this race when Ben Walker did decide to come into the pits and relinquish the lead to him. Adam Clark now finds himself in 2nd place, and we did half predict that Adam Clark would be on a 2-stop strategy. We'll see in the next couple of laps if he does decide to come in, but he's in a very good position right now.
Well, it's all about converting. I wonder if Adam Clark has been very calm and very patient with the way that he's driving, and whether he can convert that into a 1-stop, because he did come out a few seconds behind Lee Horn, which was a little bit of a surprise when it came to his pit stop. So the question will be, firstly, does he have enough fuel to get to the end as he runs slightly wide there through Fania? And secondly, does he have enough tyre life to make that a reality? Because, of course, he'll be out there with pretty old tyres, I'd say, at this point, and he'll be hoping that he can make it to the end. We know you can go 25, but you know as well that you are hoping that there are going to be no such dramas here. We have 20 runners remaining now in this race. We have had the retirement of David Kernahan, no surprises there, as into the pits then comes Andy Withers.
Yes, Andy Withers, another one on the two-stop strategy, I believe. So Andy will lose out to, he was trying to reel back in Derezhki, and he'll potentially lose a place to Jürgen Madsby Pedersen here, but so the battle for 15 will intensify a little bit as Georgiades is also in the running for that, so let's keep an eye on Andy Withers as well. Worth noting these guys, as he said, battling for the top 15. We can see William Foale back there with Garunian, but Withers has fallen behind as he leaves the pits now. All to be done on fresher tyres than Derezhki and Georgiades, so he might be able to reel them back in as the race approaches its ending phases.
Well, the key here for Anastasios Georgiades is that he is in a fight for position right now, because look who's just in front of him. That is Jürgen Madsby Pedersen in the Renault Megane at this stage as he tries to make a challenge. A little bit wide going through. Got to be careful about that. So ultimately, very easy to run wide at this circuit. Use all the battles. Renault Megane, of course. But, you know, number 7 car there is going to be looking behind in the mirrors a little bit, because it's 23 seconds in front to the same kind of car in Derezhki.
Yes, and we did point out a few laps ago that Pedersen will set his eyes on Derezhki, but Derezhki's actually, he was involved in the drama as well as Pedersen earlier on in that race, and Derezhki has hooked up some very, very good lap times to get himself back up the order. He resumed the race in about 26th place, so a very good comeback for both of these drivers actually. But we look back from Pedersen towards Georgiades there. There's been a battle that's raged on between these two for quite some time now, the battle for 15th. Which...
Oh, Jansen's slow. Ole Jansen is very slow coming towards the pits. So yellow flags out in that sector. I wonder if he's going to have to take the dive down into the pits. He'll continue on, but you can see he's had an almighty bump over around Blanchimont, it seems, because he has got himself a very not nice looking Cupra bonnet.
Yeah, it might have been an instant back in Blanchimont. We haven't seen Ole Jansen pit for some time now, so maybe the rear tyres on that already loose rear end of the Cupra might be taking its toll now. 17 laps to go, and it's interesting to see that he didn't come in the pits. Maybe he's just lapse of concentration, maybe he just needs to get his head down and just focus a little bit more. He's in a strong position in 11th place at the moment. All he really needs to do is just keep it on the black stuff and get himself a good result here.
Yeah, the last thing you want is dramas. Lee Horn is about to try and exercise his ability to overtake on his teammate Fraser Roston. So, well, hopefully we will not see the Fight Club rules of sim racing. Rule 1, you don't hit your teammate. Rule 2, you don't hit your teammate. You say it louder. But ultimately, at this moment in time, Lee Horn very much focusing on trying to get on through and trying to gain that position here. He's got a really nice run. Audi versus Audi. Surely it'll be a little look to the inside. And please, can you let me through?
Yeah, not too many flash of the lights there. They might be on the radio comms discussing with one another what to do. Lee Horn has reeled in. Fraser Roston in the last few laps. He's on fresher rubber, so he'll certainly be in the camp of let me through, I'm quicker than you. The Norris and Ricciardo situation from Imola 2 weeks ago. So we see Lee Horn. Clark in the pits, as you said, Jake. Yes, that relinquishes the podium to Foyle and Garunian, and it lets by Ben Walker. Fraser Roston and Lee Horn gain the position from Clark, who is now coming out the pits, actually.
All this is in the middle of this. Uh-oh, this ain't going to be good. He's going to be right in the middle of this one, and he has just come out ahead. And suddenly, Lee Horn's got a race on his hands with Adam Clark, as he has done all race long.
Well, Adam Clark has timed, if that was what he was targeting, he has timed that to perfection. But he'll be on cold tyres now. Coming into the second sector, he'll really struggle. And look at that Audi of Rostons and Lee Horn reel in. Could we have a Hakkinen, Zonta and Schumacher moment here as Fraser takes to the outside? It's not going to happen. No, my dreams of a 2000-year repeat, not going to happen. Fraser Roston's on the outside.
Outside looking, bit of contact as they go through, but nothing there, as it's a good defence from the Cyan Racing Lincoln Co. That's a very nice defence then as they fight 5th, 6th and 7th. A little focus and defensive again goes Clark. He's got to be defensive on the cold tyres, and there's a little bump to the back as they go through. Also, William Foyle's not too safe at this moment in time. Garunian wants to make it a Ukrainian 1-2 here today.
Ukraine will be electrified with this if Garunian could get himself into second place. Yeah, these two have been battling all race long. It's been great to see. All these battles throughout the top 6 have been, it's swapped certain drivers throughout the time, but Fraser Rostons has probably been the most impressive out of most of these guys, as he dropped away from the battle for the top 6. Sorry, it's the top 7 we're looking at, but he dropped away from the battle for the top 6 at the start of the race and has now caught it back up and is back in contention for it. Pending a pit stop, of course. I think he might have taken it already, but Roston's doing very well here.
I think it's at this point you've got to let Lee Horn go and attack, because he is someone who's got fresher tyres and has got a better ability to go out there and make things happen. You can see the sun's starting to set here around this Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and, well, you're going to force him to go the long way around. Those are some very, very candid brakes from Fraser Rostons there as he goes through Blanchimont. He allows Lee Horn the chance to go through. It's almost like I'm a psychic sometimes, Alex.
Yes, I have wondered that about you, but Lee Horn flashing his lights frantically at Adam Clark, but not at Fraser to let him go, which was very, very interesting. But Lee Horn now past Fraser Rostons, now sets his sights on the Lynk & Co, and maybe that was the agreement between the two teams. Maybe Lee Horn just thought he could push along Fraser to go a little bit quicker, but that ultimately might have been the cause of Lee Horn falling behind Clark now. It's going to be very difficult for him to get past the Lynk & Co driver, but we'll see when it comes down to it. 15 laps to go, and this could be the battle for 5th for much of the race now.
It certainly could, and, well, you've got that battle for 2nd on as well. Garunian again forced to stare and read everything there in terms of what William Foyle's got, and Foyle really struggling to get that turned in through the Jackie X corner. Garunian's got a really good lane all the way to the inside, has to go the long way around at Pouhon. You're not going to get the move done like that, but again, you're going to force Foyle to push incredibly hard. The door's going to be left wide open here on the exit of Pouhon, but the key here is Garunian's got it ahead by a nose at the moment. Foyle's got the inside for the next right-left, so Foyle trying to send one down the inside, cover off the move as much as possible. This is some wonderful trading battling that these two are having, but they can't afford to be too aggressive, because they'll allow Ben Walker, who's about 12 seconds down the road, every incentive to go out there and attack on those tyres.
Absolutely, and Ben Walker's target is to catch Garunian and Foyle by about a second per lap, and if these two continue battling like they have on this lap, Ben Walker might just start to catch that up. I think first is a lost cause for these two drivers, certainly, but they are going to be squabbling for that 2nd place plaque for the rest of the race, but the 3rd place plaque will be up for grabs by Ben Walker if he can certainly hook up some decent lap times.
They've come together. They have come together. Garunian's going to go straight on. Foyle's going to go straight on. They make more contact here as they go through. Both of them will have a penalty. Look at them. They're still going door to door, even after they've had their contact and gone through. Foyle will regain his place in front, but that will allow Ben Walker a couple seconds back. And both of them now starting to get a little bit dicey between those two. This is how much it means, that battle for 2nd place.
Oh, I do apologise for cutting away there, but a big battle between these two now. Garunian wants 2nd place, as we said, and as I was touching upon a moment ago, Ben Walker will start to catch these two if they continue battling like that. Now only 10 seconds between them. Lee Horn close to Adam Clark, Jake.
Yeah, he's looking around the outside now, thinking of a move in towards turn number 1 at the Lassour's hairpin. He's thinking about it every single time. Hasn't got quite the run at this stage, but look at this here with Romanenko. With Garunian and Foyle. Garunian's just going to lift out of that one then, give himself a bit of patience. They've lost a couple seconds here to Ben Walker, who's got that gap down now to 10 seconds. And Lee Horn here, if we look back, got a really nice chance here. He's 0.3 of a second back, but he is struggling against that Cheyenne Lynk & Co. In the fact that it is so good through the gears that you're going to struggle to find a way by it.
Yeah, it is really good down the straight here is the Lynk & Co. Lee Horn gaining ever so slightly down the straight there and under braking from the Lynk & Co, but it is real strong in sectors 1 and 3. It's the Lynk & Co. The Audi, I'm not quite sure where it's best. It's a bit of an all-rounder, I believe, the Audi, just like the Hyundai. But where is Lee Horn's opportunity? That's what he's going to be spending time behind Adam Clark, sussing out is where's the best chance to overtake with what advantages the Audi has on this track.
well, that will be worth keeping in mind. This middle sector is going to be difficult here for Lee Horn. Now, a slowdown penalty I've just seen coming on the board for Konstantin Romanenko. So he is starting to just push the limits a bit too much out there on circuit. He's got to be a little alert to that, at least at this moment. But is this now going to be Garunyan's chance? Try and figure out an overtake here with one driver in front of him. So now you start to wonder here, if you're William Foyle, just how long can you defend and how often can you defend? Because there's the slowdown penalty, pushing a bit too wide. Thank you very much, and off into the distance I will sail.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is Garunyan also had a slowdown penalty, so William Foyle must have had a bigger one than Zariah. But yeah, William Foyle will be gutted about that. And it certainly seems that Zariah is the quicker of the two. So let's just see if Foyle can hang on to the back of the Ukrainian driver. But yeah, second place now in the hands of Garunyan.
It is. What a great battle as well for 12th and 13th here, because you've got Scott McLean and Victor Gorick absolutely on it with each other.
Yes, and we did say a couple of laps ago that Gorick could be able to get his head down after passing, I believe it was Jurezski, and catching up with McLean. Another place will be gained if Gorick can keep this up. Catching's one thing, passing is another. McLean, who's had a very, very quiet race, we haven't mentioned him much today, but 12th place for him, a strong showing for him today. But the top 12 position, certainly in crunch time between these two.
And there's another battle as well a little bit further down, because Voltaire Elman is going to breeze by Andy Withers with a very accomplished and easy move there for the Hyundai.
Yeah, nice and easy. Good slipstream down the straight, a good exit out of Eau Rouge, and got the move completed before Lecombe here, which is the ideal thing to do on this track, not to compromise any track position time. And Andy Withers very loose coming out of there. What's that, Jake?
Matthew Addy has just managed to spin it, and on rejoining the circuit has very nearly taken Fraser Rostance out of this race. He had to scamper down the inside there at Lecombe to make sure that he was not going to be effectively speared out of this race.
Oh yeah, Fraser Rostance caught a lucky break there as he's lost a bit of time from Lee Horn and Adam Clark ahead of him. But yeah, a lucky break for him. Matthew Addy, a race which was looking pretty strong in the mid part of the race, is just going a little bit worse for him now, on his own in 17th there.
Yeah, so that's going to be him dropping a little bit further down, and the focus now going to be on all of these battles there. There is Andy Withers, not falling away too much from MVE, Mark Voltaire Elman, but at least at this moment in time you can say that there is a focus there, and the focus is going to be how you push on through. Not long to go in terms of this race. We're down to 12 laps remaining here at this fantastic Spa-Francorchamps circuit. We may just get the headlights on to finish off proceedings here today. William Foyle is very much on the back here of Zariah Garunyan, hoping for that place. And as well, with McLean and Gorick now side by side up into Lecombe once again. And that's both of them going off and around and in the wall. Just like that. That's not what they wanted. I was going to say it was going to be complete and utter trouble for them as they go through. Now, Romanenko is going to be on the scene here, and he's going to have to figure out, well, okay, these two have had two moments. They're going to need to get out of my way. That's not quite what I want. But really, those two, I was just about to big them up and say how they were catching Ole Janssen at over a second a lap.
Yes, and that certainly has taken a hit as they now fall to nearly 20 seconds behind Janssen now, and McLean seems to be struggling a little bit. I mean, he let by the leader, which was the right thing to do, but in doing so, Gorick just thought, well, I'll have that position, thank you very much. I wonder if McLean has a little bit of engine damage. He hit the tyres quite hard. Gorick had a bit of cosmetic damage anyway, but I wonder if McLean is struggling now with that hit against the wall.
I don't see any percentage damage, so to speak, so if it is damage, I think it's cosmetic at best at this moment, which is a testament to how sturdy these sorts of TCR vehicles are. They are built to battle, they are built to go side by side, and so they are built for a bit of biffo, so to speak, at this stage. There is William Foyle, who is trying to work hard, who is trying to keep himself in play here in this one, but I'm sure that they're starting to look behind at what that gap is here, because it's now down to 7.7 seconds, there or thereabouts. Ben Walker is absolutely flying.
Yes, he is. Second quickest on the track in that last lap. Adam Clark a few tenths quicker, who is battling with Lee Horn and actually stretched a 1.5 lead over Lee in fifth place anyway. But yeah, Ben Walker lapping quicker than William Fall, who must be pushing like crazy to try and get back up with Garunian. But Ben Walker on fresher tyres. It certainly could be a very interesting end to the race between these three drivers in second, third and fourth.
Well, I'm sure that William Foyle wants back-to-back podiums here in 2 consecutive years. He knows what he's capable of doing. He knows what good the results are as he gets nice and close. Now, his advantage is going to be Sector 3 and Sector 1. He knows that he's going to be very, very good through the gears, able to attack. And though he's 0.4 of a second, nearly half a second back as Jiraiya Garunian, I'd say he has a half chance here of trying to make something happen. They're 27 seconds back off the race lead. On the brakes they go into the last horse hairpin once again with 11 laps remaining. Now is the focus point. Can you take that place or can you not?
Yes, that's certainly it. And I keep saying it, these two battling all race long, and I don't think it's ending anytime soon. It's been a great battle between these two. Probably the notable battle on track that's just endured throughout, as William Fall now gets a good run out of Eau Rouge and Radion. He'll take to the inside, Jake.
Easy pickings. Maybe down the inside, but look at that for a defence. Slightly wide. They're going to go door to door here. Foyle and Garunian's got nothing for it. Trying the outside line. They're going to be pretty much forcing each other off into the gravel as they go through. Garunian had to yield there. Foyle took all the road. They're going through, and he said, it is my part of the track or it's nobody's part of the track, and he ended up being, for Jiraiya Garunian, not much choice in the matter, it was William Foyle's.
Oh, this is just a great battle to watch. Every time they get side by side, it is very elbows out racing between them, but William Foyle back in the second place. Jiraiya just locked up a little bit going into the chicane, and William Foyle just hung on to that inside. The man who's had absolutely zero luck in the next gen WTCR series, doing very, very well tonight, particularly in these battling parts of the race with Garunian anyway.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job, but all of that now means, look at the Ben Walker gap to Jiraiya Garunian, 5.9 seconds, so it is closing, and it is closing frantically.
Yes, it is. Ben Walker is doing exactly what he needs to do, exactly what his pit crew, well, virtual pit crew, would be telling him to do. He is lapping 0.8 of a second quicker than Garunian ahead of him, so the time, as we can see it anyway, is coming down. But Konstantin Romanenko, we got to mention him quickly, out on his own, but he is picking up a few slowdown penalties, and I do wonder if RaceRoom would just say, we've had enough, we're going to give you a drive-through penalty. That will certainly be the crying moment for Romanenko if something like that happens. He's got to be really careful. He's got it all in his hands right now. He doesn't need to push, Jake.
No, he doesn't. He's got 27 seconds, but at exactly the same time here, Alex, it all depends about driving style. There's quite a few drivers out there who turn the wick down to 98 to 97. That's when they find all the mistakes out there in the world. Sometimes it can be as easy as that to have things all go wrong. Sometimes there are a couple of drivers out there who need to push at 100 all the time and keep building gaps up through the field, because that's the only way they can feel comfortable driving around the track.
Yes, very contrasting. There's those that can just do endurance races and just, piddle along very, very calmly, daydream almost, thinking about things on the outside world and drive just unknowingly well. But there are drivers who have to push at full pace just to keep themselves in check. I think William Foyle might be one of them drivers, as I've been teammates with him quite a long time now. But he's had to keep his mind utterly focused throughout this entire race. He's had the Alfa of Jiraiya Garunian behind him or in front of him the entire race here. But Romanenko here, it might just be a lapse of concentration that's causing these slowdown penalties. Either that or he's trying to go for fastest lap.
That's another thing as well. Always want that in the back pocket. A little bit more difficult, though, with the fact that he's on very older tyres at this moment in time, as they all look to try and push. And did I just see a drive-through penalty just coming on the board?
Yeah, I thought I did, and it disappeared rather quickly. Let's take a look, see what it was. No, I can't quite see what it was. let's keep an eye out, see if anyone does go in the pits, but yeah, we'll try and confirm that as soon as possible.
I thought it was Hajka Navalov who was the one who got caught out with that, so I'm keeping an eye on that, and we will do the longer things go on. One of the things with RaceRoom, I do wish that they left their penalties up for a couple more seconds.
Yes, I do too. I do wish we had replays. I do wish we had better penalty notices. It's not too far off of great, RaceRoom, but yeah, sadly we can only work with the resources that we have, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid. But yeah, but one thing's certain with RaceRoom, you do get great racing.
And we have seen that over the course then of today. There is Garunian, and he is at real risk right now, dropping outside of a second. That is such an aggressive line over the anti-cut curbs there, as he was trying desperately to find any time he can, because he knows he's down in the straight and he needs to gather back as much as possible. Also, Ben Walker now is 4.6 seconds off the back of Zurab Garunian. Every reason now to need to be aggressive, because if he puts himself in P2, he's not the one who has to deal with Ben Walker first, and that will be his idea. Yeah,
Ben Walker will be flying high at the moment, really high on confidence right now. He's seeing the Alfa and the blue Lynk ahead of him just getting closer and closer as they just go over the hill at Radion there. He comes through Radion now. Ben Walker will know that this is up for grabs. Second place or even third place is up for grabs now with 9 laps to go. He'll be pushing like crazy right now, trying to do as best he can. Invalidated lap time again, you're going to see a lot of them at this point in the race as people use up the rest of their instant points. They do have 100 in this race for allowance, so 2 off tracks per lap effectively is what they can do. But yeah, let's see what Ben Walker can do over the next couple of laps. He's only 4.4 seconds away from Garunian.
Yep, so 4.4 seconds right now. Well, it's actually come down to about 4.0 for a temporary point in time. He is really flying right now here, is Walker. You can see using all of the track there, going through that section of road down the hill. Really is starting to look like a very interesting little battle that we have our eyes out on. Looks like nobody has really come down into the pits. We have had a retirement from this race in the form of Alex Ward. He's now classified as 8 laps down here in this race. So he is out of this one. We're down to 19 runners from the 27 that we've had started out there. And really a race which you can say has been all down to strategy. And were it not for strategy, we'd have a closer battle for the race win. Instead, we've got 1 second, third and fourth.
Yes, absolutely. And the drivers who really have utilised strategy to perfection has been Romanenko, Foyle and Garunian. Having said that, although Ben Walker was in the running for a race win in this race, he still timed his second stop quite well, in that he's still catching Garunian and Foyle much quicker. There's been a yellow flag in Sector 3, nothing to report on, but yeah, just to finish what I was saying there, Ben Walker has timed his second stop well, in that he might be able to just swipe away second place here if he continues hooking up the laps like he is now, less than 4 seconds away from Garunian.
Yep, less than 4 seconds right now. That's the gap that you got to deal with, and it will be closing more and more, but time is starting to run out. We're down to 8 laps to go, so to Garunian, half a second a lap and a bit more, but ideally you want to be inside around 0.8 of a second. That's when you really get the benefit on these straights, and the easier job on the straights is going to be making things happen on the Alfa-Romeo than it is on a like-for-like Link.
Ben Walker with a slow down penalty. It might be one of those that you can run down on the straight here. Let's see if Ben Walker does ease off. He doesn't appear to be. He might be shaking it off on the straight here, which would be lucky for him. But Ben Walker, you can tell he's running wide or cutting a little bit extra of the corners just to try and get the time in on Garunian and Foyle ahead of him. He's really pushing everything out of that Link at the moment, as another slow down penalty for Lee Horn. So all these drivers trying to get every bit of time they can in these closing moments of this race to gain just one place. And there's a yellow flag somewhere. Ian Deeney. Sorry,
yeah,
Jake?
Navaloff, I think, has gone for a spin down at the Lassau's hairpin. So that will be position gained. Ian Deeney then jumping up inside the top 10. So not ideal for Navaloff then, as he looks to go on through, and he'll have to try and gather that one back up. Good news is he doesn't have to really worry about the car behind. There's about a minute's gap.
Yeah, a long gap between 10th and 11th, as we saw there, but a long way behind Jaeger now is Navalov, where he was actually catching Jaeger quite a little bit, but now that is off the cards. It is a battle between for 9th and 10th between the two Galva Racing drivers.
It very much is. So they're both going to be trying to figure out how they go through. Garunian, meanwhile, has taken a few laps to get back there, but that gap's back down to a third of a second, and suddenly Will Foyle is going to have to be looking very heavily in the mirrors at a very resurgent Zariah Garunian, who will be wanting desperately to get back through and has been playing the patience card. Is going to be looking for that inside, but ultimately is forced to back out of that attempt of a move as he looks to try and attack every exit he possibly can.
Yes, and while we're looking at Garunian catch up with Foyle, they've actually left behind Ben Walker a little bit. The gap did in fact extend to a 5-second gap between Garunian and Walker as they went through Blanchimont. It's come down now to 4.6, but Ben Walker, he might have hit a bit of a wall here with the tyres where he can't really get much more out of them. As we said earlier, when the Lynx & Co tyres have faded away, it really does compromise its ability to get through the corners, whereas the Alfa Romeo does compensate for that as he cuts the corner a lot and rightfully gets a slowdown penalty there. It might be one of those we mentioned earlier he can shake off on the straight here. But yeah, Ben Walker, let's see if he can get a much cleaner lap in here, as it's going to be a struggle now with 7 laps to go for him to catch up with these two.
Yeah, he's trying to serve it there in the braking zone, closes it down to about 7-8 tenths of a second. I think that's penalty served then for Garunian, but it will bring Walker back into the fight then, very nicely so, I'd say, at this stage. Navalov as well, really close now to Ian Deeney, will want to try and find a way back through, and we'll have to wait a little bit then on the outside of one. You can see just how those brakes really are glowing right now as he tries to go through, as there is also going to be another change to the position, it seems, a little bit further down, because you've got Addy and Withers then going through. So Addy versus Andy, the only difference is a D versus an N, and it looks like this is going to be a position change.
Absolutely, and Addy coming back through the field, back past Withers. That's easy pickings for him on the Kemmel straight there, back into 16th, both in the same livery. I don't think they're teammates. But yeah, get position gained for Addy. But we have also got Deeney and Navalov all touching wheels, the two teammates. Team orders definitely out the window here as they push each other through the chicane now. Position gain for Navalov again. Deeney latching on to the back end of Navalov, coming down towards Bruxelles now.
Yep, so a lovely move there. Hajka Navalov moving up then back into 9th position in the Alfa Romeo. So a very accomplished move to get that one sorted, but that gap again for Ben Walker is really flying down. It's 3 seconds to Zariah Garunian, and you can see him in front. It's almost like a carrot dangling on the stick here. He'll have 6 laps to figure out an overtake and away by, and by the time he catches, he's probably going to have, what I would say, 2 laps to get through and then to foil, and they've got traffic.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Do not take your eyes off this battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be very interesting. So the car ahead of William Foyle right now is not Pedersen, it is Derezhki. So it's going to be interesting to see what Derezhki does. Does he pull over to let these guys by, knowing they're battling for position, or does he just carry on? I mean, blue flags do not mean get out of the way. It actually is purely an informational flag to let you know that there's a car a lap ahead of you approaching behind. Another slowdown penalty for Garunian, by the way. He's pushing everything he can out of that Alfa, isn't he, Jake?
He's pushing too much, because now he'll bring Ben Walker within about 1.5 seconds, and that is the last thing you want as an Alfa Romeo, is to have that just staring down you as you go through. Now Deeney is back through. Oh no, Deeney's gone straight on down at the final chicane, so we'll take the very wide line through that chicane, or the elongated chicane, I would say. If ever you needed one of those penalty laps like MotoGP does, that would have been the time for it. So Ian Deeney all the way back there in 10th position. Not much he can do now. He will just have to consolidate. Yeah,
Deeney taking a line that looked more like the old bus stop there through the new bus stop chicane, but it's actually a bus stop chicane. But yeah, Deeney will certainly lose that gap to Navalov, and probably establish himself as a 10th place runner now in this race. Garunian is dropping back a little bit from foil, a long way back in the form of 2.5 seconds, and Ben Walker has caught up with the Alfa Romeo driver.
That's the penalty. That is all the penalty, and that will be key, because Garunian knows he's had to serve that penalty down, had to do so in a way that he's not going to lose time, but he's got no choice now. Ben Walker is right there, and the Lynk is going to be absolutely on it like a car bonnet here through this right. Fresher tyres against older, and Garunian's hopes, it was looking like it was going to be a comfortable P2 at one stage. Now, may not even be a podium, because here comes Ben Walker, searching for the opportunity here on the run towards Boschman. Look at him all over the back, figuring out a way forward. He's going to have to temper the run slightly here through this section. He caught too much, then he puts the power back down. This is going to have to be brave on the brakes if he wants to get this one nicely worked out, and he goes late as late can be, gets it slowed down on the inside. Little attempt to come back from Garunian, but you're just going to plonk the car in the middle of the apex, give yourself no chance to come back. Walker, vintage P3.
That was certainly vintage. A beautiful move up the inside of Garunian there, but Garunian, being him, will not give up on that position. But wow, round of applause for Walker there for just the perfect move. If you want to school anyone on overtaking, you certainly want to use that one as the example. Yes, Navalov sinking into the abyss, which RaceRoom does with disconnections for some reason. But yeah, Navalov out of this race. Top 10 gone for him. It promotes Ole Janssen, another teammate of his, to 10th, but Navalov out of this race, Jake.
Yeah, that's a real shame. And one which I think, well, will be one which he'll definitely want back. I mean, you don't just drive 45 laps of a race, spend nearly 2 hours behind the wheel to get yourself out of the race with 5 laps to go. That's just a heartbreak.
It is, yeah, it is. It's the way, it's, you know, in real life racing, you worry about engine failures or any other sort of terminal errors with the car. But in sim racing, it certainly is a different kettle of fish, where your battle is the internet.
Yes, absolutely. And that, time and again, is always going to be one which you do not want to be losing out on time and time again. So now you start to wonder here whether second is safe. The gap is under 2 seconds between Foyle and Walker with 5 laps to go, and you wonder whether William Foyle's got anything left in the tank.
It certainly isn't looking great for the fellow Lincoln for I can't say it, for Foyle. But yeah, the time is just rapidly coming down. Ben Walker reeling him in. If that move on Garunian was anything to go by, you've certainly got to say Walker is not going to have many issues with Foyle. It just depends how hard Foyle defends. We're getting very, very close to the end of the race here. 5 laps to go, just the final 10% of this race. Romanenko has dominated it, hasn't he, Jake?
Yeah, when you're 29 seconds clear in any sort of race, no matter what the distance, you can say you've dominated proceedings, because it's just been one of those drives where he knows what he needed to do. He kept himself in check with Ben Walker early on, didn't let himself get involved in that. When Walker came down in and made his decision to go to 2 stops, Romanenko said, "Oh, Christmas, it's mine." And that is the way that he's gone through, constructed his race, and now he's got himself a Sunday drive between now and the end. He knows what he's done, and he knows he's just got to bring it home.
Absolutely. But I think while we're on the subject of Romanenko, Jake, I'm going to leave it down to you, and I've got a feeling I know who it's going to be. But as you did last year, who is going to be your driver of the day for this year's CA TCR Spa 50 event?
Well, this has been a very interesting battle up and down the order. We've seen many a driver make a great charge and make a great showcase, but my driver of the day is going to be Adam Clark. I think that Clark has shown a level of maturity in this race where a lot of drivers who have been around him maybe wouldn't have done. He kept himself abreast, hasn't put himself in any trouble, and just the way that he has been driving here today, he is probably the most deserving of this award by sheer fact that he has just been the calmest, the cleanest, and probably the most collected over all of the action we've seen.
Excellent choice there, Jake. Adam Clark is your TrakRacer driver of the day for today, ladies and gentlemen. But we have to move on to the battle at hand. And this battle is between 2 Lynk & Co cars. One in the form of Ben Walker in the 68 machine of the 2020 Lynk Co, and he's against the 2019 number 68 machine of William Foyle.
He is, and all of that down to a bit of traffic that they had to navigate away by. That gap has come right on down. The traffic, of course, was a little bit further forward, but Walker is there, and that will hurt now for William Foyle, because he knows now what he's got to do. He's got to be so alert to this sort of finish as he goes on by. Walker's got a really good ability now on these tyres, and he's got the very nice position of picking and choosing his moment here for P2, where William Foyle can only just look back in the mirrors and just pray that something happens to Ben Walker behind. He knows it's not going to happen, and he's going to have the widest link in all of the Ardennes.
Absolutely, and we know Ben Walker likes this move going into the bus stop chicane. Very wide coming out of the Blanchimont there. He looks to the inside. Under the brakes he goes. He gets it to the inside of William Foyle, trying to shut the door. He hangs on to the outside. Now the inside for the next corner. Ben Walker tries the undercut. He gets alongside, and he might well be moving his way past William Foyle now along the straight, side by side, coming up towards Eau Rouge. William Foyle is slightly behind, but on the inside, coming into La Source now. I said Eau Rouge previously, and he locks up. He locks up, and that will let through Ben Walker.
Easy as that. Forced error. Thank you very much. Ben Walker back to second. Foyle had nothing more to give there through that section of track. He was trying to fight against someone who had better tyres than him. The moment he tries to brake at the same point, the tyres decide that they want to lock up and flat spot ever so slightly, and then through goes Walker up into the second position then in this race with 3 laps remaining overall. Wonderful work being done and concocted and concluded then as they go through, and the work's being done, all of which sets up quite nicely with a bit of traffic there from Scott McLean there in 12th place.
Yeah, fantastic work from Ben Walker there. He's really got his head down and worked tremendously hard in these last 10 laps or so since he came out the pits, really, where he's just patiently but very, very very hastily caught up with Garunian and Foyle to get those positions back, and I think it's a rather deserved second place for Ben Walker today. Quickest in qualifying, but perhaps didn't have as good a, well, clearly didn't have as good a strategy as Romanenko, who is 30 seconds up the road. But you've got to say Ben Walker, you know, just rewards for second place here. Done very, very well when he needed to.
Tell you what, there is still a battle going on for 8th place here in this race, because Ian Deeney is closing down Tamas Jaeger at the moment. The gap's down to 1.2 seconds right now out there on circuit, and Jaeger's had a very quiet run today as the Hungarian now has Ian Deeney breathing down his neck in that Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and Tamas Jaeger with 3 laps to go will be panicking a little bit about that position. He'll be hanging on for grim death, and Ian Deeney, you know, although there's not real much advantage, there's no championship or any points or anything like that to think about, as Romanenko now crosses the line with 2 laps to go. Tamas Jaeger will be worrying at this point. He's got 2.5 laps to keep himself ahead of Deeney here, but Romanenko, 2 laps to go here. Really all he needs to do now is bring it home with a 31-second cushion to Ben Walker.
Yep, 31 seconds worth of cushion. Only 10 drivers on the leading lap as things stand. Ole Janssen will be the next one at risk of being put a lap down. In fact, has been put a lap down, now by one Mr. Konstantin Romanenko. So it shows right now everybody is those few gaps away, and it has been just one of those walks in the park. Back to Deeney, though, we should focus on, because he is there at about 8-9 tenths of a second, which is half a second better than where he was this time last lap. So Deeney is reeling that in, but he's not there at the moment. I think he's using these straights as the point of which he builds that attack.
Yes, well, we've seen Alfa versus Audi earlier on in the race. But, yeah, Deeney, I can't quite put my finger on when he pitted, or and the same with Jaeger. So clearly Deeney, with better pace at this moment, might be down to fresher tyres, and he's really closed in that final sector on the Audi. So with 2 laps to go as they cross the line here, this is really going to be crunch time for Deeney to get past Jaeger, and Jaeger to hang on.
Absolutely. It's going to be about how you hang on at this point in time. Ian Deeney knows he's got to try and line up a chance. If he's not going to get it this time, he's got to close that gap down to about 0.4 of a second, give himself the opportunity onto the final lap. If he wants to go and make that change, if he wants to jump up into 8th position, they'll crest the rise through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, this that left, right, left, as they go on through. Lot of commitment from that Audi. Is able to just carry that maybe a little bit better, but then you get onto the Mulsanne, and this is where the change really does come into play. Ian Deeney able to rattle that gap down under half a second, down to 4.5 of a second as they hit the brakes. Ian Deeney is now firmly there here, Alex, with a lap and a half for these drivers. Romanenko about to start the last lap.
And in fact does start the final lap. We will revert to Deeney to keep an eye on that battle between them two. There's no other notable battles on the track, but Romanenko now starts his final lap in this Crest Autosport TCR Spa 50 event, sponsored by TrakRacer. Take away the final lap, please, Jake.
Well, it's been one of those races where you can talk about, or most people would talk about how, quote-unquote, hard-fought this one would be, but this isn't the case of a hard-fought race. This is a case of a wonderfully strategic race out there on circuit where Konstantin Romanenko has done well. That battle is on still with Deeney and Co, and look at how close it is right now. A chance potentially into Fania between these two, and it's going to have to be more waiting, maybe up to that final chicane for Ian Dean to pick it up, or you could just run wide and open the door up then coming towards that next section and get the place anyway. So Ian Deeney jumping up to 8th position with a lap and a little bit to go in that form of race. In fact, off the track there goes Tamas Jaeger. He is not under threat from Ole Janssen. He's got over a minute's worth of gap there.
I think he's got a puncture, Jake.
So
I think he's got a puncture.
I think that might be the case, and if it is a puncture, then that is going to be really hurting him. He'll have to come down in for a splash in the dash. He's really trying to deal with tyres that have decided they do not want to be tyres anymore as he goes through these next sections. The key is, though, that he has got himself quite a bit of gap. As you can see, he's so slow going through Blanchimont and making that charge over towards the final section. Surely he'll be diving down into the pits and looking to get himself in for one final stop. That puncture will hurt. In fact, he can't even turn it that far if he wants to try and get to the pits. He's trying everything he can, and into the pits then he will go, the very adventurous route, and Jaeger then will get himself one final stop and a one-lap stint to finish things off. But let's focus on Konstantin Romanenko at this stage, a race in which he played the strategy card, the pace card, he played all the cards on the table. He made sure that everybody knew who he was, and he was not going to have anybody tell him otherwise in that Alfa-Romeo Giulietta. To the final chicane goes Konstantin Romanenko, because he will be your 2021 Crest Autosport WTCR champion in the Spa 50 with a commanding drive that only he could have managed.
Spectacular racing there. Dominated it near start to finish. Just tucked it behind Ben Walker for the majority of the race, and when the time came for him to make the move, he did, and he's just pulled away ever since. A fantastic, valiant drive from Romanenko there.
Yeah, an incredible drive by his standards. There is Ben Walker. A good recovery on the wrong strategy today to finish up in second place. What could have been if he was on the right call? He cost himself about, I would say, 27 to 30 seconds here today. Foyle will take another great podium. He will be a day of third as there's the big drift coming in, going through that section of track. But William Foyle, you have to say hats off to him, in fact, from the way he started this race to get himself up into P3. Some wonderful driving up and down the order, and still a lot of drivers focusing on where they need to be towards the end, a lap down or otherwise.
Yeah, and Adam Clark coming through 5th place. TrakRacer driver of the day. Brilliant racing from him today. Lee Horn coming through in 6th place. Decided to end his race very, very soon after crossing the line. Emphatic as always. Fraser Rostins comes through in 7th place. We thought he would be challenging for the top 6, but not meant to be, with a little bit of damage on that front end. Good, solid race from Rostins there.
Yep, a good, solid race indeed, and one that he can be very, very happy about in the way that he has driven. What a drive as well by Ian Deeney there. Just a quiet race over to P8, and it will be a very long wait for Tamas Jaeger, who will be coming to the line as well in 9th position overall. He's just making his way through the second half of the lap as things stand. So really, what you can say is a wonderful drive up and down the order. There is your race winner, Konstantin Romanenko, who does not look like he is stopping for nobody at this stage, as he will make his way back towards the pit and have a wonderful drive. So confirmation of result then. Romanenko picks up the win with Walker there in second position overall. William Foyle rounding out then the podium. Juraj Garunian couldn't quite make it. 2 Ukrainian drivers on the podium there, with Adam Clark in fifth position, the TrakRacer driver of the day. Sixth place would go then to Lee Horn, with Fraser Rostance finishing it off then in seventh position, and Ian Deeney then in eighth overall. Ninth place would go to one driver in all sorts of issues, and he's coming to the line right now. Tamas Jaeger had a massive slide actually just then going through that section of road. And then rounding out the top 10 will be Ola Janssen, as Jaeger makes it across the line as the last finisher. Victor Gorick then gets 11th a lap down, with Scott McLean in 12th, and 13th to Lucas Derejki then with a quiet run up through the field. NVE Mark Voltaire-Elman makes his way to 14th, with Matthew Addy then P15. Andy Withers finishing in 16th, with the last two finishers being Jürgen Mansby Pedersen and Anastasios Georgiadis. And then your retirements, Hajka Nevelov, Alex Ward, David Kernahan. Then you've got Alexander Foyle, Ben Sisko, Tonga Guardia, Nikita Shaponchik, Mark Arrowsmith, and Chris Bell with a disqualification, making the finishing 27, and only 18 of those finding the checkered flag. Oh, well, Alex, I would say another job fantastically well done here with Crest Autosport. Some brilliant racing up and down the order that we have had here today. And once more, we would say a wonderful battle up and down the field, as everyone has tried to sort out where they needed to be today.
Yeah, some fantastic little battles. Ben Walker and Romanenko at the start of the race. William Fall and Garunian for pretty much the entire of the race. Adam Clark versus Lee Horn. We saw Deeney versus Jaeger at the end there, which Deeney did very well to gain the position, and Jaeger trying to just hang on to those tyres. Clearly that was the issue at the end, as the tyres just decided to have enough. But plenty of battles throughout the field. It was real good fun, and a huge thank you to all the competitors for taking part, and a huge thank you to all the Crest Autosport fans watching and supporting our leagues. And just before we close off, just a reminder to all drivers who want to take part in the Crest Autosport RaceRoom leagues, we have got coming up in a few weeks time a full season of TCR action, 12 rounds on a tour of Europe, Tuesday night racing, UK time from 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock in the evening. Please do find us on crestautosport.com to enter that league if you are interested in that.
Of course, some brilliant work being done here in terms of the action that we have had moving forward. Also, of course, this is sponsored, this entire series, by TrakRacer. You can use the code CREST at checkout for 5% off of your purchase that you have moving forward. Of course, a massive thanks to everyone who's been getting it done here behind the scenes as well, from Alex Everitt pulling double duty on cameras and commentary. My name's been Jake Sparey. But another Spa 50 in the books on a fateful, fateful day where legends have been memorialized for ad on eternitum in terms of what they've been capable of doing. Crest Autosport has seen the rise of another star. He's Konstantin Romanenko. He managed to win by over 30 seconds. You can't argue for anything more. You can't argue for anything less. And we'll see you very, very soon in whatever we find ourselves going on to next when it comes to Crest Autosport.